and the link me, which will be pinned in my chat. All right, let's do this.
And so with their lead dwindling, questions are being asked about Tesla's role.
So this is about how Elon Musk is a fraud, because yeah, something's up.
For how much longer are they going to overtake the competition? And where will Tesla be in the next decade? You see, if we go back 20 years ago, Elon Musk was never there from the very beginning. Instead, Tesla was initially created by two men, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tappening, who both saw an opportunity. You see, back in 2003, electric cars were more of a curiosity than a product. And there were two reasons for this: the batteries and the reputation. The first problem was practical. The current battery technology just wasn't up to scratch for an electric car with an adequate range. They needed to use much newer lithium-ion batteries, but they kept exploding when put into laptops and other electronics. And this then fed into the second problem of reputation. That's in the fact that the only electric cars
I want to find a more like recent like video,
and what's Honda's
because
EV
like I feel like since 3 years ago, like he's done a lot wrong, so we need something that takes everything into account. And I need to take my, I have a, yeah, I need to take this stuff off. Okay, I'll just type exposed. Exposed, okay. Okay, what, this is more new. This is about
It's
Elon Musk a
extremely
year
easy
ago.
to hate billionaires. If
Hey.
most of us had that kind of money, we would shut up, stay off social media, and live life like it was a video game. But Elon Musk wasn't like other billionaires. He had the world convinced that he was a misunderstood genius. And despite him having inconceivable goals like his technology saving lives and even moving the human race to another planet, he seemed like just a chill guy. And because of that, he was almost universally liked by people on both sides of the political spectrum. But not anymore. The cracks in the facade have been revealed, and the controlled narrative surrounding Elon's life and career have been dismantled. Elon's lies have gotten so out of control that even his own fan base is starting to reject him. And in today's video, we will discuss why some people are still hanging on to the idea that he is a genius with an honorable mission to save the human race, and why others refuse to ignore the obvious warning signs of giving more power to the richest man in the world. There has been much debate about the severity of Elon Musk's traumatic childhood. Some believe he is twisting the narrative for sympathy, whereas others see him as a man whose behavior today is the direct result of his father's brutal parenting style. The narrative that has been broadly accepted is that Elon grew up poor, which is not true, but that doesn't mean he automatically had an easy life. Elon's parents, Errol and May, were mostly separated just 9 months after Elon was born. Errol was a successful engineer and May was an aspiring supermodel, and the two busy parents left young Elon home with his two siblings, Kimball and Tosca Musk. I didn't really have a primary nanny or anything, Musk recalls. I just had a housekeeper who was there to make sure I didn't break anything. She wasn't like watching me. I was off making and reading books and building rockets and doing things that could have gotten me.
Yeah, fucking right.
I'm shocked that I have all my fingers.
Man, he is such a liar. He was not making rockets at 5 years old. Dude, if anything, dude, maybe that's why Musk had problems at home. Maybe he was a crazy arson. Yeah, because do you guys know how like some really crazy, like if you have a really crazy son, like a really crazy son, will we try to like do fires and burn the house down? Seriously, like this is real. Like a very mentally ill kid, which I'm sure some of you retards maybe have tried that, or some of you guys probably unfortunately still put your mom through that. But no, dude, Musk was probably fucking like playing with fire or like being fucking crackhead. So yeah, because he wasn't building no rockets.
I was raised by books, and then my parents.
Why are you gurring
Elon
at
was
me?
surprisingly proactive.
Hold on. Baby, why are you? What? You don't love me anymore? I thought you loved me. Man, guys, look. It's like I thought you accepted me as your mama. Bitch, you can't take that shit back. I love you. Did Paisley hit you? Don't worry, I'm here for you. What? Is Paisley here? What? What? Why are you making me sad? It's okay. Dude, my cat's like, it's like, why are you growing at me? You've never done this before. I love you. Are you okay? Are you okay, little girl? You know how much I love you? I love you so much. You are the love of my life. My airy berry. Hey, no, it's okay. Guys, look at this demon. My airy berry fairy cherry, and I love you. Hey, you fucking bitch. I love you, airy. I didn't betray you. I would never fucking betray you. 'Cause you are my airy berry fairy cherry. If Paisley attacks you, I will fuck him up. Don't worry about your brother, he's a Y chromosome virus. And you are my baby fairy. Why are you doing this? You are... What? Why are you doing this, baby? I love you, baby. No one will attack you while you're with mommy. 'Cause I'm your mommy. But you need to stop. Why are you acting like this? I love you. It's gonna... All right. There she goes. Yeah, no, it's like, I don't know where this is coming from. Just so you guys know, like, she is never like this. Like, she's, you know, honestly, I think that maybe perhaps her brother attacked her and she feels betrayed. Oh, good point. Maybe she sees me, pet Paisley, or I love you, Paisley, and she's like, oh, that bitch is friends with my enemy. I see where that would piss her off. It's like, yeah, why can't we all be happy? But hold on, guys, let me, I have a shirt on underneath this jacket, and I need to take it off. Give me 1 second. It'll be super quick. Ugh. I'm just taking off the stuff. Ugh. Oh my god. Oh my god. I feel like, you know, so much better. So much better. Just so you guys know, I'm a little bit, sick, running a little bit of... Dude, I don't know what the such, but okay, that feels so much better. It's like, dude, it's like, I can't wait for males to, like, leave Earth and go to Mars so that women could finally, like, you know, like, we don't have to wear clothes anymore. Like, we could go out, like, just, like, you know, natural. Wearing the clothes we were born with. Because seriously, dude, it's like, clothes is, it's not comfortable, man. It's like, you males need to get off our planet.
Child, studying programming, reading science fiction, and teaching himself to code his first video game at the age of 12. And as if that didn't make him unlike most 12-year-olds, he was also trying to discover the meaning of life.
When I was
like, yeah, right,
11
dude.
or 12 years old, I had somewhat of an existential crisis because there just didn't seem to be any meaning in the world. Like, no meaning to life. I actually tried to read all the religious texts. You know, obviously read the Bible. I read the Quran, the Torah, but on the Hindu side, just trying to understand all these things. But then I read Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is really a book on philosophy disguised as humor. The point that Adams tries to make there is that we don't actually know all the answers, obviously.
Yeah.
In fact, we don't even know what the right questions are to ask. The thing that's going to take a computer far more powerful than Earth is to understand what question to ask.
Yeah, right.
That's simply the wrong question.
So was that the key realization, that question?
Yeah, that was a fundamental turning point, yeah.
And just like that, Elon's life philosophy was set in stone. Stay curious, keep learning, keep asking questions, keep solving problems, and keep progressing towards finding the answers or the questions of the meaning of life. But it wasn't smooth sailing from there. Growing up in South Africa, violence was all around him, and Elon was about to experience some harsh life lessons.
Dude,
at a
Elon
young
was a
age.
fucking Nepo slug growing up. Just so you guys know, Africa's not all, yeah, if you guys don't know, Africa's not all like, oh, starving. No, dude, it's like the fucking, there's a rich part of Africa, and those people are fucking loaded. Literally, it's like, you know, like fucking mega mansions, fucking like, you guys have no idea, like seriously, look into it. You know, like, I've never been there, you know, but I'm familiar, so, what is it? Like, I'm pretty sure, like, one of the rich parts is, like, Cape Town. Cape Town is basically Rich Town, Africa. But yeah, no, it just because he grew up in Africa, and there's, like, it's, like, obviously there's violence in the U.S., but, like, somebody who grew up, like, affluent, like, I guarantee you they probably didn't see shit, so, it's, like, yeah.
Quick, have you ever Googled your name and seen yourself on one of
Don't
those
care.
strange sites that has too
I
much information
don't care.
about you? Feels pretty weird. If you've ever wondered how scammers get your phone number
I don't
or
care,
why your
bitch.
inbox is flooded with spam, this
Bitch.
is why. Sold. I'm not leaving. And counselors would use these stories as warning for research. Sold. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable. and
Oh
you
my
shouldn't
God,
either.
shut up,
Elon
man.
Musk sent Elon to a South African survival camp because he knew his child needed to be tough to survive. The kids were given small rations of food and water and encouraged
right.
to physically fight for resources. Musk and his younger brother claim that every few years, some
Yo, how's that his brother, by the way? What the fuck? No way, man. Something's not right.
would actually
It's just that they look nothing alike whatsoever. It's like, yeah, nah, man.
and counselors would use these stories as warnings. Don't be stupid like that dump who died last year, they would say. Don't be the weak one. Elon was essentially a frail nerd who was socially awkward and anxious to defend himself, which made him a target. After one altercation at school,
No,
he was
he's a
hunted down by
racist.
bullies and nearly beaten to
Nonsense.
death.
He wasn't a frail man. That big back ain't never been frail. Dude, you take one look at Musk and you know damn well that this wasn't a little ballerina. Nonsense, dude. I do believe the stories about him getting bullied. I actually do believe that. But dude, it was probably because he was being racist. He's being a bigoted racist, saying stupid shit. Or talking too much shit. Musk is a shit talker, man.
4 or 5 guys.
Musk is totally a shit talker. Look at how sassy he is. Fuck you. Fuck the advertisers, dude. Man, imagine. And this is somebody who's a CEO, right? Or
It's just awful.
like a business owner, all this shit. So no, he was totally talking shit, starting fights.
Was unrecognizable.
His father didn't show him any affection after this brutal
If anything, perhaps some would argue maybe he, you know, he could have been the kind of guy that like bullied others, right? Like somebody that like picks on somebody that like, you know, like tries to be a bully but then ends up getting like their shit handed to them. Kind of like a stupid bully. It's like usually, you know, if you're a bully, you want to pick somebody who, you know, you could fight, right? Or win against.
Instead, Errol made Elon stand in front of him for hours while he called him an idiot and said he was worthless. Elon's father justifies this cruel punishment because he revealed that Elon was actually the one who started the fight. The boy had just lost his father to—
I'm not shocked.
And
I knew it. Whoa. Do you guys hear this? I knew it.
had called him stupid. Errol says, Elon had this tendency to call people stupid. How could I possibly blame that child? Some see Elon as a victim of cruel bullies. Some took this quote from his father and
I knew
thought
he
that
was a
Elon
shit
lied
talker.
to the media for all these years.
Guys, isn't that crazy how I literally just like predicted this, that, you know, he's just fucking shit talker and just would like try to be a bully, but like would get his ass handed to him, so like a retarded bully. Someone throwing rocks from a glass house. A bully who throws rocks from a glass house. That's who I think Musk is. I knew it.
That he was in fact the bully, just getting some much due retaliation. Then again, Elon's father may not be the most trustworthy source either. Would you trust a man who raised a stepdaughter since she was 4 years old and then had 2 children with her when he was in his 70s? Elon's first wife, Justine, put it this way: with a childhood like his in South Africa, I think you have to shut yourself down emotionally in some ways. If your father is always calling you a moron and idiot, maybe the only response is to turn off anything inside that would have opened up an emotional dimension that he didn't have the tools to deal with. He learned to shut down
But
fear.
it's also
If you
true.
turn off fear, then
So it's also true that usually bullies are being abused by their parents. So you know what? Maybe two things could be true at once. Perhaps Musk was a shit talker, a shit talking bully, but perhaps he was just parroting what his dad would call him. You know, he called a guy who lost his father's because his dad passed away as stupid, and you know that guy, obviously, you know, his dad died, fought him. Right? But maybe he said that to him because he was upset about his dad calling him stupid.
you have to turn off other things like joy or empathy. Now, turning off fear, joy, and empathy
retarded
was
males
key
do that a
to
lot,
becoming the
like
business
project.
savant that he is. However, his traumatic childhood has made his fans see the man worth $389 billion as relatable. And it's because of these half-truths that have allowed Elon to develop arguably the best reputation of any billionaire in history. Because if the full truth was revealed, like maybe when it comes to his business practices, then he may not be seen as the otherworldly genius many believe that he is. Since Elon's mother was originally born in Canada, he was able to escape the harsh environment of South Africa to attend college. After 2 years, he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, where he studied until 1995. Elon became interested in the world of entrepreneurship in college, starting small businesses to help pay for tuition.
I see. He's with
Since
you
Silicon
right
Valley
now.
was the home of innovation for anyone pursuing a career in tech, after graduation, Elon and his brother Kimball set off to California to make their business dreams a reality.
In starting the company, I had nothing. I had no income source. We found that an office was actually cheaper than an apartment in Silicon Valley. So we got this dinky little office that had a leaky roof.
Holy shit, like,
it was
dude,
just
I just want to make a side comment, like, so this video is about Musk and, you know, it covers some of his background, and I've seen Musk as, you know, little Musk, medium-sized Musk, and, dude, I just wanted to go in to say, dude, Musk is really unattractive. Like, dude, it's like, I feel like I learned, like, holy shit, because, like, some people are unattractive because they don't take care of themselves, maybe they do drugs, and, you know, or life doesn't treat them too well, so they become ugly, right? But no, dude, Musk was, like, born ugly, man. It's like, holy shit, so he's always, because dude, Musk looks the exact same. He looks the exact same as 50 as when he did, like, nothing's really changed, so, man, his genetics really just... genetics are that bad. I've never seen such awful genetics, man. And don't get me wrong, a lot of females have awful genes, but man, that's crazy.
this place you can. And I lived in it too and showered at the YMCA. This lasted for about 3 or 4 months. And the reason we chose this office, in addition to it being really cheap, was that there was an internet service provider on the floor on the floor below. So we were able
And
to
his
get
bottom
really
teeth
cheap
are
internet
crooked.
access
Oh
by
my,
drilling a
all the
hole in
teeth are
floor and
crooked.
connecting to
Holy
their server
shit! It's like
directly.
Elon was
everything's
building
wrong.
the right company
Everything's
at the right
wrong.
time, as any tech company with a decent idea was getting bought out for astronomical prices. In 1999, Musk and his brother sold an online city guide guide called Zip2 to a company called Compaq for $307
where's my
million.
vape?
And with $22 million in his pocket from the sale, Elon could have easily retired. But $22 million was chump change in that industry, so he thought bigger. He used all of his money to create an online banking business called X.com, an all-in-one banking company where everything financial could be in one place. But this project was a little too big for Elon to achieve on his own, and so he decided to merge with a company right next door to his office
Dude,
called
this guy's so fucking ugly. I can't believe it.
PayPal. Apparently, his behavior at the time was so uncontrollable and erratic that people in the PayPal office despised him. He was rumored to have challenged the CTO to an arm wrestling match and was removed as the CEO after people started to jump ship because he was seen as a liability. One of his business partners described the inability to take Elon seriously. There's an irony in everything he does. He operates on an irony setting that goes up to 11, but never goes below 4. Despite tension in the office, they were all about to become
so basically
rich.
he's a retard.
In 2002, PayPal was acquired by eBay for $1.5 billion in stock, of which Musk, the largest shareholder with 11.72% of shares, received $175 million. And instead of slowing down, he chose to live up to the stories he read in science fiction novels as a kid, becoming the face of 2 innovative companies, Tesla, an electric vehicle business, and SpaceX, a space transportation and aerospace manufacturing company with a primary mission to colonize the planet Mars. Elon Musk invested $100 million of his PayPal money into SpaceX, and his business plan will shock you. In the late 80s, the Bush administration asked NASA to estimate how much it would cost to get to Mars. They replied with a price tag of $500 billion, and the government said, okay, we're never going to Mars. But Elon liked the idea of going to Mars, so he had to think outside the box.
So then that got totally shelved, and it was like, we're not allowed to talk about any kind of crewed mission to Mars at NASA. Anyway, but I thought, well, if I could do something that would galvanize public interest, and then that public interest would translate to additional appropriations for NASA and increase the budget, then maybe they could do it. The United States, maybe more than any other country, is a distillation of the human spirit of exploration. It's really fundamental to psyche. So if people think there's a way, I think it would actually get a lot of support.
Although this may seem small, it's actually a huge insight from Musk. He basically admitted that his whole business plan was to launch a marketing campaign to the general public. If he could make the ordinary person interested in Mars, and the hype was big.
How closely do you watch big speeches by Donald Trump?
What the fuck happened?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I must admit, I don't watch them that closely these days.
What happened to my computer?
If something important happens, I'm sure someone will let me know.
Okay, hold on, you guys, don't worry.
It's a distillation of the human spirit of exploration. It's really fundamental to psyche. So if people think there's a way, I think it would actually get a lot of support.
Although this may seem small, it's actually a huge insight from Musk. He basically admitted that his whole business plan was to launch a marketing campaign to the general public. If he could make the ordinary person interested in Mars,
somebody else made a video
$850
months ago.
billion.
Perfect.
That's how much money Elon Musk is worth, at least today, because by the time you watch this, it's probably going to be more. Adjusted for everything, he's the richest person who's ever lived. He's wealthier than the railroad tycoons, the oil barons, any king or pharaoh of the ancient world, and right now, he's racing towards becoming the world's first trillionaire.
Elon Musk is on the path to becoming the world's first trillionaire.
First trillionaire. 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 Trillionaire.
But depending on who you ask, he either earned every penny of it, or he's the greatest con artist in history. At the same time as his supporters claim that he revolutionized multiple industries and brought humanity towards a brighter future,
You're Elon Musk.
there are more people who call him a narcissistic fraud.
Making one guy a trillionaire is insane.
At the same time as his company set new records and he gets richer and richer than ever before, his dealerships burn as protesters march against him. And so the question is simple. What does Elon Musk's status as the wealthiest person in history, with a net worth that races ever closer to $1 trillion with each passing quarter, actually mean? Does his influence and wealth represent progress and ingenuity, or corruption and excess?
People have called you the real Tony Stark. Are you sincerely trying to save the world?
Behind the manic media coverage on all sides, from those who call him a savior to those who claim he just might be the devil,
Noise for the richest man in the world.
who really is the richest man in the world? This video is sponsored by Incogni, the best tool you can use to maintain your online privacy in a world designed to make that more difficult than ever. Go to incogni.com/Volksgeist and get a special 60% discount so you can make your personal details private right now. Elon Musk may have been born in South Africa, thousands and thousands of miles away from what people typically consider the Western world, but his family was not originally from there. In fact, they only moved there 20 years before Elon was born, with even his own mother not being born in South Africa either. And the reason for that is so ironic that it's honestly kind of hard to believe. Elon Musk's maternal grandfather was a man named Joshua Norman Haldeman. Haldeman was born in 1902 in Minnesota, with his family having moved to America from Switzerland in the 1700s, and he would live a very strange life. When he was 3 years old, his father was diagnosed with diabetes, which led his mother to attend chiropractic school in hopes of curing him. And that would lead to his parents moving the entire family north to Canada to look for new opportunities, where his mother would become the first licensed chiropractor in Canadian history. Haldeman grew up to become a chiropractor himself, although in his late 20s he got into farming before the Great Depression and a subsequent drought led to him losing his farm a few years later. After that, he worked a number of odd jobs before going back to chiropractic, where he would become a prominent leader in the Canadian chiropractor community. But where Haldeman would really make his marks was politics, because the early 1930s saw the birth of a new movement called Technocracy Incorporated. Their mission was to promote a political system run by engineers and scientists instead of democracy and politicians. And within a few years, the group attracted nearly 500,000 members, and Haldeman would be one of their true believers. Emerging out of the desperation of the Great Depression, their ultimate goal was to found a technate that could encompass the entire American continent from Panama to the North Pole, creating a self-sustaining geographical unit dominated by the power of engineering and science. In their world, there would be no scarcity of resources, and they would achieve that by completely abandoning politics, politicians, and the typical capitalist economy altogether. Technocracy leader Howard Scott would say, "Politics is the natural approach of morons. Socialist, communist, fascist, liberal, conservative, Republican, or Democrat, they all stink alike." That is, until they were banned entirely in Canada following the start of World War II on account of being a massively influential, growing organization that advocated for taking down their own country and saluted to a nation that didn't exist in the middle of a war. It would be just a few weeks after technocracy was made illegal that Joshua Haldeman was arrested by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on the charge of being a member of an illegal organization. In today's world, where industrialism has been either outsourced to countries thousands of miles away or superseded by the age of information, this all sounds pretty strange, but in the late 30s, industrial engineering, the building of highways, skyscrapers, trains, factories, guns, and cars, this was the cutting-edge tech of the day. This movement was essentially equivalent to if today a CEO said that society would be more efficient if we handed over control of the economy to a tech company. But even though Technocracy Incorporated eventually faded away, Haldeman's interest in politics did not. He would go on to lead a very strange political career in Canada, starting his own movement that he called the Total War and Defense Party, advocating for drafting every man and woman between the age of 16 and 60 into the military, and he even ran for Canadian Parliament multiple times. But then, suddenly, Haldeman would leave Canada for the rest of his life. In 1950, when his children were just 2 or 3 years old, he and his wife packed up and left, leaving behind one of Canada's largest chiropractic practices, a huge mansion, and even their own private airplane to settle 6,000 miles away in Pretoria, the capital city of South Africa. And the family's version of why they moved is simple. One of his sons would later write that it was probably Haldeman's adventurous spirit and the desire for a better climate to raise his family in that drew him to South Africa. And most books about Elon Musk and his family, of which there are many, still only mention that his grandfather spent his life in Africa living as a daredevil adventurer, flying his plane into the bush and camping while he searched for lost cities with his kids in tow. But Haldeman himself told a totally different story. Just 1 year after arriving in South Africa, he wrote an article for the local newspaper back in Saskatchewan, where he describes Black South Africans as very primitive people who must not be taken seriously. He even said some of them are quite clever in a routine job, but the best of them cannot assume responsibility and will abuse
Holy
authority.
shit, so Elon
finishes
Musk's
with,
great-grandfather was a
"The present
racist
government of South
retard."
Africa
This,
knows how to
dude,
handle
he
these
sounds
questions."
just like his
Then,
grandfather.
years later, while speaking
Like,
to a right-wing
holy
South African
fucking
newspaper,
shit.
he would literally directly say
Wait,
that it wasn't
okay,
that the
so,
government's racial
guys, so I have always had a theory, like, you know, grapists have the grape gene. And I'm now learning that, dude, being a racist dude, so he has the racist gene. Because look, his grandfather, look at the shit that he wrote. Like, who the fuck? Like, what the fuck? First of all, holy projection. First of all, I mean, you heard a little bit about what his grandfather, his career, right, and his lifestyle. It's like sounds like projection to me. One, but then two, it's like so that's where Musk gets that from. What the fuck?
Way. In fact, that was what had encouraged him to come to South Africa in the first place. Haldeman arrived in 1950, just 2 years after the National Party swept into power on a platform of formalized racial segregation and immediately started passing the laws that define the country's history to this day. The Population Registration Act, which classified every citizen by race, the Group Areas Act, which dictated where non-white people were allowed to live, and the Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Act. And
so
you can
basically his grandfather invented racism, basically in a nutshell. Because did you hear that? So the grandfather helped to create segregation, to create, categorizing people, like, labeling the... What the fuck?
On March 21st, 1960, South African police would open fire on a crowd of unarmed black protesters during a demonstration. They killed 69 people, many of whom were shot in the back while they tried to run away. Shortly after that, the United Nations passed Resolution 134, the first official condemnation of apartheid, which marked the beginning of decades of international outrage and isolation for the South African government. But while the rest of the world looked at South Africa and saw tragedy and horror, Haldeman called it a conspiracy. In response to the international outcry around the massacre, he wrote, "The facts of history show that the white man has always developed the country he inhabits to the benefit of all concerned."
Absolutely not.
People discovered nothing, not even the... He would describe...
What the actual fuck? You see, this is why, I know that a lot of people get upset when I, talk shit about white males. And yeah, I do talk a lot of shit about you guys, but do you guys now see why, I talk so much shit about you guys? Because it's like, you guys are such liars. You guys don't do shit. The only thing you whites have ever done is oppress people and fucking kill people. And it's like, you guys have the nerve to say this shit? It's all projection, by the way. Literally, all projection, because they do nothing but harm people, oppress others. But dude, this is why I hate them so much, literally. And it's like, I don't like to use the word hate, but I hate racist specifically. But it's like, I feel like I'm being rage baited every time I hear this kind of shit.
South Africa as being the leading white Christian civilization for all of humanity. For the next 15 years, Haldeman wrote books and essays claiming that vaccinations, fluoridization of water, and health insurance were all tools of a global conspiracy operating in every country on Earth. His own son-in-law, Errol Musk, would later go on record saying that Haldeman and his wife were fanatically in favor of apartheid and that they used to support Hitler. This isn't information that books or documentaries about Elon Musk often include. Probably the most well-known book about Musk's life, written by Walter Isaacson, gives Haldeman only a page and a half of details, calling him a daredevil adventurer and describing his politics as quirky. On the day Haldeman died in the mid-1970s, having accidentally crashed his plane into an electrical line, his grandson Elon was just 2 years old. And despite the fact that he was too young to remember his grandfather at all, that doesn't mean he wouldn't grow up.
He still inherited those racist genes.
Looming large over his life anyway. Elon Musk was born in Pretoria in 1971, the eldest child of Joshua Haldeman's daughter May, who herself had a successful career as a model and a dietitian. And Elon Musk grew up very rich. His father, Errol, was the youngest person to earn a professional engineer's degree in South Africa, and when Elon was a child, his real estate business was booming as he developed office parks and apartment buildings all over South Africa's capital region. By the time Elon was 8 years old, his family lived in one of the biggest houses in Pretoria, and the story goes that his father had become so successful that he owned 2 homes, a yacht, a plane, 5 luxury cars, and a truck. His father would later say, "We were very wealthy. We had so much money at times that we couldn't even close our safe." But Elon's father was far from perfect or even kind, because Elon's childhood of extraordinary privilege would also be accompanied by extraordinary cruelty. Violence would define Elon Musk's childhood, with his mother telling stories about her ex-husband punching her while he was driving, with 5-year-old Elon Musk standing between the seats of their truck, hitting his father's legs and trying to make him stop while their other kids cried in the back seat. During their divorce proceedings, which weren't even possible until 10 years later because she had to wait for voluntary divorce to be legalized in South Africa, Errol would reportedly go looking for May at friends' homes with a knife in his hand. But when it came time to decide which parent he would live with, Elon Musk made a decision that in many ways would define the rest of his life. He would choose to stay with his father because, in his words, his childish mind thought that his dad needed company to be happier.
Shut the fuck up. Alright, so, want to know what that tells me? Want to know what that tells me? So he made it very clear. So his dad's actually a bad guy, honestly. It's like all you need to know about a male is like, man, if a male abuses women, like that's all you need to know. So no, the dad's actually a bad guy. He abused his wife, and Musk saw all this, but he chose to live with his dad. What that tells you is that he has no respect for his mother. He doesn't care about his mom, and he was, all I have to say to you guys is Musk definitely wasn't, oh, don't attack my mom, or oh, I need to protect my mom. That wasn't what was going on, because why would you choose to live with your dad? Why wouldn't you come with mom? Just so you guys know, it's not like mom was broke. So mom would have been, well. Mom was a famous model and a dietitian just independently. She would have been a pretty wealthy mom. And also, she likely got a good bit of money from the divorce. So, why would you? So, it's not like he'd have to live in a trailer with mom. Again, mom would have had a nice house herself. He just fucking is a misogynistic piece of shit. So, the misogyny's been since he was born, it sounds like. He has the misogyny gene. Because, like, why wouldn't you go with your mom?
Elon Musk. Childhood was never confined just to home. In one story, a group of boys at school came up behind him and kicked him in the head, threw him down the stairs, and when he hit the bottom, they followed him down and kept beating him. His brother said, "I couldn't even recognize his face. It was such a swollen ball of flesh that you could barely see his eyes." Elon was hospitalized for 2 weeks. The damage to his face was severe enough that he was still undergoing corrective surgery on his nose years later. And according to one biographer, the ringleader of the attack was even sent to juvenile prison. But the worst moment was when he came home and his father didn't comfort him. He didn't ask if he was okay or confront the school, but instead screamed at Elon for hours, calling him a worthless idiot that deserved to be beaten. Elon's younger brother, Kimball, when asked years later about his worst childhood memory, would say that it wasn't the sight of his brother's destroyed face at the bottom of the stairs, but that it was watching his father spend an hour telling his brother, a child who had just been beaten so badly that he couldn't see out of his own eyes, that he deserved it. In 2017, during an interview for a Rolling Stone cover story, Musk would call his father a terrible human being, describing him as someone who constructs carefully thought-out plans of evil. The journalist would note that there were things Musk couldn't bring himself to say out loud, and that during the interview, he began crying silently. He eventually physically broke down. He would say, "You have no idea about how bad. Almost every crime you can possibly think of, he has done. Almost every evil thing you could possibly think of, he has done it." He wasn't exaggerating. Elon Musk remains somewhat of a public figure to this day, appearing in the media at different points for running crypto scams, praising Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, claiming that the United States is doomed because of race mixing and that no one was oppressed during the apartheid era.
Oh, well, Musk would probably agree with that. Yeah. One thing Musk and his dad have in common is they're both hateful, bigoted racists.
And what was later revealed as being what Elon Musk had been trying to say but couldn't during that interview.
But yeah, no, honestly, like,
with his adult stepdaughter.
I mean, dude, there's no doubt. Like, I don't think that Elon Musk's dad was a good dad, but when it comes to that specific thing, like, I don't know why he brings up how his dad reacted with the bullying, because, like, that's not really a good... It doesn't really make him look good, because, like, yeah, there's no doubt that the dad was very mean. It's probably not the best story, right? But, yeah, if you guys don't know, so Elon Musk was talking shit. He was bullying, or, Elon Musk was a shit talker, so he got jumped, which, it's not okay, obviously. It's not okay, but it's like, I mean, it's like you hear the way his dad went about it. It's like one could argue it's like, maybe perhaps he was trying to make sure that his son didn't get into a habit of getting beat up like that over and over, Like, I mean, because like what do you do? It's like you got beat up. I mean, it's like, the only thing you could do is try to make sure it doesn't happen again. And if the only reason it happened is because your fucking shithead son's bullying people. I mean, to me it just sounded like his father was like, oh, you need to take accountability. And Musk was like, no, you do shit, you fucking idiot. He probably lost his temper, because like Musk wasn't, because we all know how Musk is today. It's like, we all know he refuses to take accountability. So I feel like more than likely, like his dad was just really, trying to like, hey, don't let I don't want this to happen again. You need to understand where, you had a role in this. And when his son was refusing to take accountability, fuck you, dad, you support me, you an asshole. Then he just started losing his temper and calling him names. rage quitting basically.
Who he had known since she was 4 years old, having been married to her mother for decades. A 2025 New York Times investigation revealed that she had been telling relatives that Errol was acting inappropriately towards her since before she was school-aged. This is the world Elon Musk grew up in. Extreme wealth and extreme cruelty. A father who could give him the world on the condition that he would destroy him alongside it. What we do know about Elon Musk's teenage years, besides that they were defined by a strange mix of privilege and violence, was that they were also the start of his interest in technology and business. While he wasn't a very good student in school, with decent grades but not amazing, he was obsessed with computers and
which, by the way, no big shock. He wasn't a great student in school. Dude, like, no shit. Like, no... Guys, always remember, like, racists are retards, you know? Like, people that are racist are genuine. They have low IQs. That's where racism comes from. So I'm not surprised. You know, it's like, because there's nothing logical about being a bigoted racist. If anything, it's illogical. Like, everything about guys like Musk are totally illogical.
He taught himself how to program using a book. He even sold a video game he made to a local computer magazine for a fee of $500 while he was in 10th grade. But still, many, if not most, stories of Elon Musk's childhood revolve around his father's chaotic, dangerous influence and the persistent theme of violence that was simply a fact of life for him and his family. His brother Kimball would later say about their father, his mood could change on it.
Which, by the way, so we know, no shock that he didn't have the best grades. How did he get into Penn? Yeah, bitch, how the fuck did you get admitted to UPenn? Yeah, you see this, you know, and this is why, like, this is what I don't like about, you know, and they really need to stop doing this whole, like, letting, parents pay for admission to universities, because it's like the university loses credibility, right? You know, it's like UPenn is supposed to be an Ivy League school, right? But then you see a retard like Musk, it's like, yeah, pass. You know, like, maybe these degrees don't, you know, aren't very credible, because it kind of hurts everybody, right? It's like, think about the people that are actually fucking smart, that actually, like, earn their spot there. It's like they lose credibility because they let parents like fucking pay for their children's admissions, and then those fucking cornballs, you know, shame and disgrace the name, and it just fucking hurts everybody. Like you guys get what I'm saying? So no, Elon Musk is not smart. Elon Musk, at least we know now, he academically know. His grades were okay. So we heard something to the tune of he was a C student, which, by the way, how you do in high school is going to pretty much be how you do in college. There's no different. Like literally, my cumulative GPA for high school was probably a 3.8. When I graduated college, it was like a 3.737. Like, it literally, it's going to be about the same. That's a fact. So if you were a meh student, no, you're not fucking UPenn material. His fucking rich ass father paid for him to get admitted. Like, literally, if you guys don't see that, then you're a retard. Like. Also, I didn't need to hear this to know that Musk isn't a very smart guy, honestly. I already would have, you know, I already suspected that, you know, his father was rich. You know, I saw that he went to UPenn. Oh, rich dad. I wasn't thinking smart guy, because he's not.
And within a second, he would be vicious and spewing abuse.
I didn't know
One
my
minute he would be
shit,
super
yeah.
friendly, and the next he would be screaming at you, calling you worthless, and making scarring, evil comments. Then, on top of all of that, the world around Elon Musk was crumbling to dust. By the late 1980s, South Africa was tearing itself apart. The apartheid regime that Elon's father and grandfather so dearly loved and supported was entering its final, most desperate years. A period of escalating protests, constant violence, a never-ending state of emergency, and increasingly brutal crackdowns by a government that was losing internal control and being externally isolated at the same time. For Elon Musk as a teenager, this meant war, literally. The South African government in the 1980s enacted mandatory conscription, forcing all young men into 2 years military service as soon as they finished school. And during the final years of apartheid, that meant being deployed into black townships to enforce state-mandated racial violence with no chance of opting out. You could serve and go to fight and kill black people, or go sit in prison. During a 2013
That's
interview,
sad.
after being asked if he had served in the army in South Africa, he would explain that he had left instead because he didn't want to spend years oppressing black people.
No, I left at 17.
Bullshit. You know, he's so racist. Like, dude, he probably only left because he was scared. He's scared that he would get beat up again.
in order to avoid conscription into the Salafin
so you
army.
left so that you didn't have to do the army.
You know, spending 2 years suppressing black people didn't seem to be a great use of time.
I think that's
And so Elon Musk ultimately would leave South Africa forever at the age of 17, reportedly because
He was
number
scared.
one, he felt his ambitions with technology would be better supported in America, and that number two, he didn't want to participate in the country's mandatory military
Right.
service.
Yeah, I
that would have forced
totally
him to
believe
become
that
part
one.
of the apartheid regime. And this is where, depending on who you ask,
Which, by the way, all he so what he did is he left to America so that he could, you know, sit on X all day making racist tweets, suppressing them and stuff. Like, do you guys hear this nonsense? Like, ironic, isn't it? It's like, yeah, now, thank you, Elon Musk, for not, you know, being rude to, you know, the natives of the land you were living in, you know, and participating in the war regime thing. Yeah, it seems like you, you know, opted out of that so that you could oppress them on X all day instead.
different stories about the life of Elon Musk began. According to Elon Musk, he left a violent
Dude, he's
home
so
to a
full of
violent
shit,
country.
dude. Literally, I'm gonna tell you guys right now. He was scared. Elon Musk knew that Deshaun would fucking rock his shit. He was a little scared, Musk, so he ran away. That's just the truth. Because, dude, he's like the most racist person ever.
Nothing, and built himself from zero while he was still a teenager. In a 2023 podcast interview, he described his upbringing as lower income transitioning to middle income. In other interviews, he would say things like,
Liar. His dad lived in, like, the biggest house there. Had so much money they had trouble closing their safe. Also, I know that his dad was rich, but, dude, he was married to a supermodel? Dude. Like, bro. What kind of male do you think is married to a supermodel? His mom was a famous supermodel. So yeah, it's like, dude, what a liar. It's like, yeah, no, of course dad was rich.
arrived in North America with
Also bought this retard admissions to UPenn, and dude, he must have paid a lot. A lot. So no, dad was rich as fuck.
or that he worked his way through college with tens of thousands of dollars in student debt. And parts of that are true. Elon Musk really did fly across the world to live in Canada, a country he had never visited when he was still a teenager. He brought with him only $3,000 in cash and literally did work on farms shoveling grain and cleaning boilers for $7 an hour when he first got to North America. But the idea that his family came from nothing, that isn't real at all. Like I said, Elon Musk grew up in what was called the largest house in the city. His family traveled to Hong Kong and Europe when he was a child. His father owned a yacht, a plane, 5 cars, and his grandfather was similarly well off on top of that. And it wasn't just about being rich. Elon Musk grew up in a country where non-whites were legally, literally oppressed. Ultimately, the most honest thing I can say about where Elon Musk came from is that he grew up with every advantage a person could possibly have in life.
And it's
but
not
none of the
enough,
emotional
I'm still a
stability it takes to
victim,
turn a child
though.
into a functional
Holy
human being.
shit, this shows how
Being constantly
ungrateful
beaten
males
and
are.
berated during
It's
his
like,
entire
you males
childhood.
are hopeless.
To what degree this experience would define the rest of his life is up for debate. But it's not hard to see how this kind of environment might produce someone with limitless ambition and little
he's
to
a
no
victim.
framework for how to use it.
It's like, oh my god.
And so after a year of
He's
working
so
at lumber mills
insufferable.
and staying with a distant cousin from his mom's family, 18-year-old Elon Musk was able to get into Queen's University, a small college in a small town in Ontario. 2 years after that, he transferred to the more prestigious University of Pennsylvania.
So he made up with
where
his
he
dad.
earned 2 degrees in physics and economics. Friends from college
His dad.
would describe him
Oh,
as an intensely
dude.
disappointing-
He is completely illiterate when it comes to. Dude, I know that he might have gotten those econ degrees, but I know he didn't show up to none of those classes, and I know he didn't look at none of the course material because, dude, he knows nothing.
being almost alien. His college roommate, who he bonded with over growing up in a foreign country
Oh,
and
that's who
not
did all
having
his
friends in America, described it as when Elon Musk gets into something, he develops a different level of interest than other people are capable of. He was accepted into Stanford University in California to get a PhD in materials science, but the story goes that Elon Musk never actually enrolled and instead stayed in the US without residency or citizenship to try and catch a wave that was rising quickly as the late 90s turned into the 2000s. In the mid to late 90s, adoption of the internet was spreading like wildfire. With American computer ownership going from 10% to 40% in the 90s, venture capital firms started clamoring to invest in internet-based platforms. In the late 90s, it was just shockingly easy to seek out millions or even tens of millions of dollars of capital to build an online company that may not have even had a clear path to generating real revenue. This growth was happening primarily, if not purely, because of the viral appeal of the tech itself, not unlike, let's say, our generation's crypto bubbles or even the rise of AI agencies that's happening right now today. And honestly, most companies that came out of this period were worthless pieces of garbage that blew through hundreds of millions of dollars of investors' money while running insane marketing campaigns only to fail 2 years later when they couldn't even figure out how to make enough money to keep the lights on. In the end, during the dot-com bubble, the American stock market went up by almost 600% in just a few years, only to lose all of its gains and crash completely back to where it was in the beginning within 1 year of the dot-com peak. But either way, at the time, one thing was certain: a gold rush had begun. It had never been easier to show up in San Francisco, pitch an idea, and be handed $2 to $3 million just to try and make it.
Oh my god. Holy shit, no! Oh my god, guys, I dropped the phone.
Or just coming from a crazy... This was their first legitimate during this time. Mitigators, but not Musk. He was into amplifying risk and bought nice cars, some retired early, some still worked normal jobs. His response to the internet boom. Basically, and during the final years of apartheid, that a child into a functional human being, being constantly beaten and berated during his entire childhood. To what degree this experience would define the rest of his life, he's turned into the 2000s. With no help. The most pure definition of a self-made man. But for others, he's a gigantic scam artist who stole ideas and had no clue what he was doing, only making money because he got lucky by being in the right place at the right time. The reality, of course, is more complicated than either of those two simple avenues from old phone books. It was basically a directory for what kind of stuff you could find in your local area. But according to Elon Musk and his brother who co-founded Zip2 with him, it wasn't quite as simple as flying to San Francisco, booking a meeting, and becoming a millionaire the next day. In their telling, they started off with a budget of $10,000 in savings, they leased a $200 a month office and lived in it despite a leaky roof and having to walk to the gym to shower, and they even had only one computer, using it to run the website during the day and then taking it down at night so Elon could program new features on the same
Dude,
site.
I didn't know he
When
had
investors
siblings.
would
He
come
apparently
visit
has a
the
sister and a
office,
brother.
They would use a fake supercomputer that they
I don't
made
ever
out of
see him
empty
hanging out
computer
with
cases
them.
to make them think they had a super complicated technology behind their platform. And if all of this wasn't risky enough, like I mentioned, Elon Musk and his brother were doing this illegally. They were literally illegal aliens in America, undocumented migrants. And early investors would later talk about how it was a legitimate concern that the Zip2 co-founders could have actually
this guy's a
been thrown out of the
crackhead.
country at
So
any moment
he
while working
was,
for the company.
you know, so Musk always goes on about how, oh, we need to the border. Oh, the immigrants are ruining, creating. So he himself was a crazy, dangerous immigrant. Like, what the
Actually,
fuck?
though, Zip2 attracted enough attention to earn...
Dude, it's like, literally, this is proof that all of these racist, all of those stupid racist things, racist people say it's all projection, honestly. They're just telling you things about themselves, really.
$3 million venture capital investment, and within 2 years, they would partner with over 150
Hey, baby, I need you to
newspapers,
get up.
including the New York Times, Esquire, and the San
I don't wanna
Francisco
wake her up,
Chronicle,
but
among many
I
others,
need to move.
becoming known as a major component of the U.S.
Hi,
newspaper
baby
industry's
girly.
response to the internet boom. Basically,
everything's
Elon
good.
Musk's first company was a
Yes!
pretty big success. The only thing is that
Yes!
Elon Musk himself wouldn't be present for them. It would only be a couple months after they received that first $3 million investment, this big moment to take the company to the next level, that the company's board would remove Elon as CEO entirely. The engineers they hired to refine the code he had written would later describe his work as being a hairball, so tangled and messy that it was easier to write the entire website from scratch instead of trying to fix what he had done. One former teammate
Incompetent,
would
there
describe
we go.
Musk not as a visionary founder, but as prone to setting unreasonable deadlines, chewing out other executives or colleagues in the open, and retooling code written by other people without asking. They would say that while yes, he was capable of building a successful platform, he relied on sheer force to get things done, walking through the office as late as 9 p.m., furious that people had gone home instead of working through the night. Musk would go around the office well into the evening looking to see who was sitting in their cubicles, and there weren't many. It was 9 p.m. But his face would turn red. He was really angry that the entire company wasn't there in the office at 9 o'clock at night. Coworkers from the Zip2 days would describe him as fighting with people during meetings and getting angry when things were impossible to finish quickly. You would see people coming out of the meetings with a disgusted look on their face. One story from the book Hubris Maximus, The Shattering of Elon Musk, relates a conversation that Musk had with an early Zip2 investor that reveals what he was really like back then. Derek Proudian, then at Moore David Out Ventures, recalled grabbing lunch with the young Musk to discuss how to make the company viable on a small scale. Musk, however, insisted that he think bigger. Zip2 was going to be the biggest company ever, Proudian recalled him saying. And when Proudian tried to change the subject, Musk doubled down. He would say, "No, you don't understand. I'm the reincarnation of the spirit of Alexander the Great." It wasn't that Elon wasn't a hard worker or that he didn't know how to build a company. He was known for going door to door, personally convincing businesses to sign up for Zip2. He was in the trenches. He would stay and work all night, basically living in the office. The problem was that he was impossible to work with, to the point where the board felt they had no choice but to get rid of him if the company was going to even survive. But even after all of that, Zip2 did still work. In 1999, Compaq Computer would pay $305 million to acquire Zip2. Elon Musk, who was 27 years old then, would walk away with around $25 million for his shares. Ultimately, though, the company only lasted another 2 or 3 years. When the dot-com boom crashed and the real companies were separated from the momentary trendy ones, Zip2, which was essentially an online phone book, wasn't able to survive. I wouldn't say that the story of Zip2 makes Elon Musk a fraud, but in that case, it definitely doesn't make him a genius either. I think what it makes him is a guy whose biggest skill wasn't really building something, but rather was convincing people that what he had built was bigger than it actually was. Back then, though, hardly anyone was paying attention. There's not really a lot of footage of Elon Musk from this time that still exists today. In one video from 1998, he talks about being totally broke during the first few years of his career, literally living in his office and showering at the gym to save money. In the next video, from 1 year later, CNN films him as his new car arrives, a $1 million McLaren F1, of which only 64 were ever made in the world. His fiancée, standing by his side, expresses her fear that they're going to end up out of touch and materialistic.
It's $1 million for a car. It's decadent.
Elon, meanwhile, jumps for joy in the middle of the street. And that's it. That's essentially his entire footprint from back then. Elon Musk wasn't on TV because there were thousands of people just like him, and most of them are completely forgotten today. Some of them took their payouts, bought nice cars, some retired early, some still work normal jobs in tech right now. Only one of them ended up the richest man on Earth. $22 million, or whatever Elon Musk got paid for selling Zip2, is an insane amount of money. Like, you and your family will never work again kind of money. And that's a huge success story on its own. It's like 10 times more money than most people make in their whole lives. And in the world we're living in today, honestly, that doesn't even sound that bad to me. Like, you make 22 million bucks, great. Like, there are people out there with thousands of times that much money. There are people out there with, $200 billion. And the amount of greed in our society today, the idea of someone getting a $22 million payout for their work, it's like, that doesn't even sound like that much anymore. But my point is, there is an ocean between that and what Elon Musk is worth today. It's literally not comparable at all. Elon Musk, though, would do none of that.
I really want to finish
he
the
would put
video
almost
before I
every
fall
penny he
asleep.
had into starting yet another company. Just a few weeks after Zip2 was acquired, Elon Musk incorporated a company called X.com. The vision was massive. This time, Elon wasn't just talking about a website. He wanted to build an entire financial system on the internet. Savings, banking, investments, insurance, mortgages, all under one platform. And I mean, today, this is how banks work, all of them. But back then, while some banks had moved online and there were some places you could get insurance or bonds or checking accounts on the internet, the idea that a startup could do all of this at once, based entirely on the internet, was unheard of. There was just one problem. They had serious competition right next door. Literally, next to the X.com office that Musk opened in Palo Alto, there was a company called PayPal that had recently been founded by Stanford graduate Peter Thiel and 2 friends. And PayPal had an edge over X because they had figured out how to let people transfer money across the internet safely and easily with nothing but an email address. Whereas before, people shopping on eBay or other similar platforms were forced to mail checks and wait for them to clear before the purchase could be sent, PayPal shot online shopping into the future like never before. And so instead of competing until one of the companies died, they decided to merge. Elon Musk, as the largest shareholder, became CEO. Peter Thiel became chairman. And their growth was staggering. On the day they merged, PayPal and X.com had 12,000 users combined. But thanks to a deal that came shortly after, making them the default payment method on eBay, they would reach 2 million users within 6 months, making them by far the biggest online payment platform in the world. By this point, the dot-com bubble had burst, and they were still succeeding. At the same time, though, the company was on the verge of death, because the dot-com bubble had burst and they were still succeeding. This was not a good position to be in. They had been handing out big cash bonuses to new PayPal accounts, basically spending every dollar they had to grow the user base as fast as they could. But almost overnight, raising new money to keep the growth going became impossible. The tone of the market changed dramatically. Cash became hard and then impossible to raise. On top of that, fraud was eating them alive. It reached a point where it cost PayPal $12 million a month to manage all of the scams that were running through their platform. But while the company was fighting to survive, almost everyone on the team was coming to the same conclusion. Their biggest problem wasn't a recession or fraud. It was their CEO, Elon Musk. But instead of leading his team through a crisis, Elon Musk was actively making it worse. When he disagreed with engineers on technical decisions, he would challenge them to arm wrestling matches. When the team tried to introduce CAPTCHAs to stop the fraud that was bleeding them dry, he argued that CAPTCHAs weren't worth the time. He eventually began acting in a way that his colleagues would describe as aggressive, demanding, emotional, and unpredictable. PayPal's former CFO would say years later, "Entrepreneurs are not actually risk takers, they're risk mitigators." But not Musk. He was into amplifying risk and burning the boats so we could never retreat from anything. He couldn't even compromise on branding. The rest of the team thought that X.com sounded like a porn name, and they wanted to stick with the name people actually knew, PayPal. Elon Musk refused. The story of what PayPal even was is the same. While it was achieving massive popularity as a simple money transfer app, Elon Musk wanted to turn it into the 10 times more difficult and risky to pull off full-service banking ecosystem before they were even making a profit.
Okay.
The story goes that he couldn't get through a single meeting without making an enemy. He would put everything on the line every time and then alienate the same people he needed to make it work. By the end of the first year, they were just months away from going bankrupt and losing it all. And every single person he was working with felt that they were doomed if they couldn't put someone other than Elon Musk in the CEO chair as soon as humanly possible. And so in September of 2000, while Elon Musk was on his honeymoon in Australia, the team came together while he was still on the plane, and they organized for the board to remove him as CEO. They unanimously replaced him with Peter Thiel, who agreed that Musk was too risky and uncontrollable to lead a company. And so for the second time in his career, Elon Musk was removed from a company he helped build. And this was only the beginning of a very dark period in his life. 3 months later, he and his wife tried to take another honeymoon after he had to fly home when he got kicked out of PayPal during the first one, only for him to contract a severe strain of malaria that would nearly kill him after he got misdiagnosed. The story goes, though, that while he lay in a hospital bed in Africa, with doctors telling him that he was 24 hours away from being unrecoverable, he took out a $100 million life insurance policy on himself with PayPal as the beneficiary, so that if he didn't survive, the company wouldn't go bankrupt. Then, in the spring of 2002, he and his wife Justine's firstborn son died of sudden infant death syndrome at 10 weeks old. His wife would later write, "Nevada went down for a nap, placed on his back as always, and stopped breathing. By the time the paramedics resuscitated him, he had been deprived of oxygen for too long." But then, just a few months later, PayPal would finally emerge from the dot-com crash alive and be acquired by eBay. With Elon Musk having kept his 12% of the company through all of the corporate drama, his payout would be more than $175 million. Max Levchin, a PayPal co-founder, would later say, "One of Elon's greatest skills is his ability to pass off his vision as a mandate from heaven." At the same time, though, Max was one of the co-workers who voted to remove Elon Musk from PayPal in the first place. And so at the same time as Elon Musk had powerful, provable visions for the future of technology, he had acted in a way that made him an unmanageable liability for the people around him. This period of Elon Musk's life leaves behind an extreme reputation. He came up with the idea for full-service online banking years before it was popular, but he was so bad with people that even our generation's merchant of death and spying, Peter Thiel, couldn't stand working with him. Elon Musk at 30 years old could stomach extreme risk, far more than other people could handle, while still pushing for extreme success. He would risk deportation to make $10 million and then risk the $10 million he just made to make $100 million. But that sort of extremity isn't something that only applies to someone's work ethic. The qualities that made Elon Musk ultra wealthy, a 100 millionaire, at the same age as his hero, Alexander the Great, conquered the world, those same traits would come to define every relationship and business that Elon Musk would ever lead, as he continued pushing forward on his journey to build the biggest company of all time. And for most people, after being fired twice, nearly dying, and burying their first kid, all before the age of 31, this is where they would stop. Elon Musk had made enough money to live forever and ever. He had done some pretty interesting stuff and worked on some cool things, and he was very, very rich. But Elon Musk did not stop. Within months of losing their baby, he would take almost all of the money he had just made and pour it again into a new company. Whether that makes him a visionary or something else entirely is what the rest of this video is about. When you look into the history of private rocket companies, what you'll find is a graveyard. In the 90s, Kistler Aerospace raised $1 billion to build rockets and ended up never even launching a single one. Beale Aerospace spent $500 million before giving up. Launching rockets into space was not just something a private company could decide to do. But the story goes that Elon was one day poking around on NASA's website looking to see if they had a timeline for a mission to Mars, only to be shocked when he found there was nothing. Within months, though, he would do what he was best at, dump all of his money into a new company for the third time, putting $100 million into founding SpaceX, with the stated goal of turning humanity into a multi-planetary species. He wanted to not just be the first private company to launch rockets into space, but he wanted to bring humanity with them. And if that wasn't insane enough, he would at the same time choose to chase a second nearly impossible task, because Elon Musk was going to take the rest of the money he had left over and buy a car company that had never made a car before. In 2003, tech entrepreneurs Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning, who had previously worked together at Nuvo Media, the company behind the world's first e-reader, began to observe that battery technology had progressed to a point where developing and mass-producing an electric car might finally be a real possibility. Because if you look into the history of electric cars, you'll find an even bigger graveyard than there is for rockets. Electric cars had actually been popular over 100 years ago, with electric trains being produced as early as the 1830s. Around the 1900s to the 1920s, electric cars even competed with early gas cars, with President Woodrow Wilson and his Secret Service famously touring Washington, D.C. in electric vehicles back in 1915. American car maker Studebaker, known for beautiful designs in the 1950s and 60s, actually got started out as an electric car company as well. But eventually, gas cars began developing much faster with regards to speed, power, and range, and electric cars fell out of favor in the early 1920s. As technology progressed, though, car companies started trying again. In the early 90s, General Motors made an entire electric car start to finish that they ended up never putting up for sale. And Ford, Honda, and Toyota all began developing but didn't finish their own electric car platforms during this time as well. It wasn't that we didn't know EVs would be better than gas cars in a lot of ways. We knew they could be way more efficient, but it was just that batteries weren't yet good enough to be competitive with regular gas cars. But Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning did it anyway. Founded in 2003, they called it Tesla, and their mission was to make not just any old electric car, but they wanted it to be really nice. Being from Northern California, they knew that wealthy people would often have a very specific combination of cars in their driveways. Not just a luxury car, BMW or Lexus or Porsche, but a luxury car and a Prius. A car that was cheap and simple in comparison, but did the very important job of signaling to the people around you that you were environmentally conscious and pragmatic. They knew that if you could make a car that drove like a Porsche and made you feel like you were saving the planet at the same time, it would sell itself. The only problem before they could bring this future of personal transit to mass production was that they needed a massive amount of money to start an entire car company from scratch, something that hadn't been done successfully in America since Chrysler was founded 90 years earlier. Every car company founded in the United States after Chrysler had gone bankrupt, and the American car companies that did still exist were generally seen as dinosaurs being propped up by government bailouts and 100 years of experience. And so in 2004, they began raising their first round of funds so they could at least get started on researching how to build a car from scratch. When it was finally complete, they had received $1 million from a couple venture firms in the Bay Area and $6.5 million, about 85% of the entire first round, singularly from Elon Musk. And so after becoming Tesla's biggest shareholder and chairman, essentially having funded the whole company from zero, Elon Musk and Tesla set out on the very long and difficult road to making an electric car from scratch, although building the car itself would only be one difficulty out of the many they would encounter. The early years of SpaceX and Tesla are a story of unmitigated disaster. Within a few years of their founding, another financial crisis had hit, and once again, raising money for startups had become suddenly very difficult, especially for companies trying to build highly expensive, real-world hardware technology. SpaceX was in danger. Their first ever rocket launch lasted only 41 seconds before the rocket lit on fire and crashed into an ocean reef. Their next two flights got closer, reaching an altitude of 180 miles or more, but they still were not able to bring a rocket to orbit, and they were spending hundreds of millions of dollars. One executive, after the third failure, described the scene as, "The mood in the building hung thick with despair. It had the potential to send the company into a downward spiral from which we may not have ever recovered." Meanwhile, Tesla was doing even worse. By 2008, they had brought a car to market. The Tesla Roadster became the first ever highway-legal all-electric production car, but its production had been so plagued by problems that it was costing the company $120,000 to make each one of them, while they were selling for less than $80,000. The Roadster was both a huge feat of engineering and a horrible business decision at the same time. To keep things simple, they had actually based the Roadster on another pre-existing sports car, but they ended up redesigning so much of it that it became far more expensive than just making the car from scratch in the first place. Every single time they sold one, they lost money. Tesla had no way to bring in any profit at all. Employees from Tesla or SpaceX at the time would later say that there was probably a 90% chance of both companies failing completely, and that the dream of bringing more sustainable cars and creating space technology would probably be lost forever. By the end of 2008, both companies were totally out of money, and they were just a few weeks from shutting down. SpaceX rockets were exploding over the ocean, while Tesla burned all of their cash on selling a car for less money than it cost them to make. Elon Musk was ultimately forced to split all of the money he had left between both companies so they could continue paying employees while they figured out what to do. Then, on December 23, 2008, NASA called to award SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract for 12 cargo resupply missions to the ISS. This was their first legitimate revenue, just days before they were going to go completely broke. The day after that, on Christmas Eve, Tesla closed an emergency funding round. The money came through just hours before they would have had to shut their doors for good. And so they were ultimately pulled back from the edge of total collapse. Thanks to government funding and investors, the dream of going to Mars and creating sustainable cars was alive. But what it had cost in every way but dollars is what this story is really about. It's easy to see the story through Elon's eyes as a story of risk and sacrifice. He spent all of his money, down to his metaphorical last dollar, to bring SpaceX and Tesla to life against totally overwhelming odds. This is the story of Elon Musk. He put everything on the line and still succeeded over and over, and I get why people have been inspired by that. But in reality, it wasn't just Elon Musk that was making sacrifices. Yes, he went through immense struggle for his work, but for the people working under him, the struggle was often even greater than that. Stories about what it was like to work at SpaceX are brutal. Workers stayed in the factory for 80 hours a week, while field engineers would live isolated on a tiny chain of islands in the Pacific Ocean for months, building rockets thousands of miles away from home while their projects failed over and over again. There were even some instances where they got stranded without supplies for weeks at a time. But it wasn't just exhaustion either. That maybe you could understand for the sake of science and progress. Over the years, though, Reuters would document more than 600 unreported workplace injuries at SpaceX. Crushed limbs, amputations, electrocutions, head wounds. One worker, a former Marine named Lonnie LeBlanc, died on site after being blown off a trailer in the wind. And at Tesla, it was a similar story. The same drive that pushed Elon to risk his last dollar on the company also meant that he treated the people designing and building the cars as expendable. Years later, investigations would reveal that early in Tesla's history, over 100 ambulances were called to the factories in just a few years, and that management had been deliberately keeping injuries off the books. And if Tesla didn't start out as Elon Musk's own company, it ended up that way regardless. It would only be a few years before the relationship between Musk and Tesla's original founders completely fell apart. At first, Eberhard had been CEO, while Tarpenning worked as vice president of electrical engineering. Musk himself worked actively in the company, overseeing product design of their first car, the Roadster, but he was not involved with day-to-day business operations. But before they could even get to the point where the Roadster was losing money on every sale, Eberhard would be pushed out of the company completely, and Tarpenning followed within 6 months. A year after that, Elon Musk filed a lawsuit and paid a settlement to be allowed to call himself the co-founder of Tesla. And so he was not just CEO, not just an early investor, but he was willing to take it to trial to gain the right to take credit for the company itself. If you listen to Elon Musk's side of the story about the early days of Tesla, the original founders ended up in over their heads and had caused the Roadster to face serious delays and financial problems. On the other hand, though, it's been written that Musk had such specific demands for what the Roadster should be that it was impossible to make it with the realistic limitations their small company was faced with. In early press accounts, Eberhard was often referred to as Mr. Tesla, and Elon Musk would be called an early investor, which reportedly did not sit well with Elon Musk. 20 years later, Elon Musk still attacks Eberhard online. Even up until just last year, he would tweet things about how Eberhard was the worst person he ever worked with and how he ruined Tesla. At the same time, though, Elon Musk was also going through a divorce. In 2008, his wife Justine left him, later saying that he treated her like an employee, telling her, "If you were my employee, I would fire you," and saying to her that he was the alpha at their wedding reception. She would later say that he refused to grieve with her after they lost their first baby, instead ignoring the situation completely, in a way that she said was manipulative. The pattern of extreme control, no matter what the consequences might be, was only intensifying. And while he would tell the story as if he had sacrificed himself and basically climbed up on a cross to bring his vision for these companies to life, Elon Musk wasn't the only one who suffered for this vision. He's just the one who gets to tell the story. And the story he would keep telling about himself would, within a few years, make Elon Musk a god among men. When Tesla released the Model S in 2012 as their first sedan, their first actual mass-market car, it was widely received as possibly one of the greatest automotive inventions since Henry Ford's Model T. Motor Trend named the Model S their 2013 Car of the Year, the first electric vehicle to ever win the award, by unanimous decision from their editors. They wrote, "The Model S is as smoothly effortless as a Rolls-Royce and more efficient than a Prius." Their editor-in-chief wrote that the mere fact that the Tesla Model S exists at all is a testament to innovation and entrepreneurship, the very qualities that once made the American automobile industry the largest, richest, and most powerful in the world. America can still make things, great things. Consumer Reports gave it the highest score they had ever given any car. It was the best car they had ever tested. Time magazine named the Model S the greatest invention of the year. This wasn't a car getting a participation award because it was new. This was a complete fulfillment of Tesla's original vision of a fast, luxurious, yet also hyper-efficient electric car, and it was being received as one of the first true innovations the car industry had seen in decades. Then, just 2 years after the Model S became a runaway success, they introduced the Model X, a bigger, bolder SUV that cost $100,000 and came with vertical Falcon doors that made it an instant cultural icon. And in those days, Tesla actually never ran advertisements. The company famously didn't have any marketing team at all, because they didn't need it. Their wait lists were months long. Celebrities bought the cars and advertised them unprompted. Driving a Tesla became the single clearest way to tell the world that you were rich, forward-thinking, and on the right side of history. You would see Teslas in rap videos. Steven Spielberg, Jay-Z, and Anthony Bourdain all bought them. Influencers drove them en masse. But no celebrity endorsement would be as powerful as that of Elon Musk himself, who by the middle of the 2010s would be arguably the most beloved man in the world. In 2008, while Steve Jobs was releasing the iPhone, while Jeff Bezos was turning Amazon into a worldwide empire, while Mark Zuckerberg already had 100 million users on Facebook and a movie was being made about him, Elon Musk was a nobody. He wasn't a billionaire, he wasn't famous. If he showed up on a magazine cover, it would be a magazine you'd probably never heard of. That changed when executives at Marvel began developing the character of Tony Stark for the Iron Man series. And while they were working on the character, they ended up meeting with Musk, touring the factory where they were prototyping the Model S, and ultimately basing Robert Downey Jr.'s character partially on Elon Musk himself. From there, the growth of Elon Musk's profile in the press started escalating faster than it ever had before. And so at the same time as the Model S was released to thunderous applause, journalists and commentators everywhere began heralding Elon Musk himself as not just the real-life Tony Stark, but as Richard Branson would declare him, humanity's escort to the future. And so after one of the most popular fictional characters on Earth, a genius billionaire who builds technology that saves the world, was literally modeled on him, the fiction and the reality began merging into one story. Elon Musk was no longer just a CEO. He was becoming a superhero. He became a constant fixture on late-night TV shows, discussing how he planned to save the world with science and technology. In 2013, Fortune lists him as the business person of the year. Time magazine writes, "Whatever skeptics have said can't be done, Elon Musk goes out and makes it real." The Washington Post in 2015 writes that he's arguably the world's most important entrepreneur. Esquire titles a piece about Elon Musk "The Triumph of His Will" and describes him as the visionary that forces Americans to become explorers again. Every major publication in America was in a competition to see who could give Elon Musk the most praise. And online, the love for him reached critical mass. He wasn't just admired. The internet began worshipping Elon Musk for being a billionaire that would shitpost memes and reply to random people. He was the first tech entrepreneur who wasn't a boring corporate robot, who actually had a personality. Stories about how he never slept and would work all night and tirelessly live for his mission of saving the world were everywhere. For millions of young people, Elon Musk represented the future.
Sincerely trying to save the world?
Well, I'm trying to do good things, yeah. I mean, saving the world is not about...
But you're trying to do good things and you're a billionaire. I mean,
yeah.
That seems a little bit like either superhero or supervillain. You have to choose one.
It just accelerated from there. By 2016, Tesla had announced the Model 3, a much more affordable car that rapidly became one of the most popular vehicles in the United States within just a couple of years. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's portfolio of world-changing businesses only grew. In 2015, he became a co-founder of OpenAI, pledging $1 billion to help build safe artificial intelligence. That same year, he launched the satellite internet project Starlink, with plans to build 10,000 satellites and cover the globe with cheap access to high-speed internet. The next year, he co-founded Neuralink to help disabled people use brain implants to interface with computers. After that, he introduced The Boring Company, a project to reinvent transportation with Hyperloop systems that could transport people from San Francisco to Los Angeles in less than an hour. Every few months, there was a new company, a new mission, a new reason to believe that Elon Musk was going to drag humanity into the future, whether we were ready or not. SpaceX was the most ambitious of all of his projects, as they set their sights in 2016 on a Mars mission by 2022. Elon Musk would famously say, "I'd like to die on Mars, just not on impact." It sounds so distant today, but back then, I was into this. I believed in Elon Musk. I remember being 16 years old and writing an entire essay about SpaceX's mission to Mars, being totally convinced that it was going to happen by the time I was 21 years old. But anyway, I'm now 26 and I'll never retire, and I can't afford a house, so you guys better go to spiritworld.store and buy the Self-Made Trillionaire sweater. Spiritworld.store, buy the Self-Made Trillionaire sweater, free shipping in the US. In 2017, author Neil Strauss spent 9 months building a profile on Elon Musk for Rolling Stone. When he was done, he described Elon Musk as the single most important person of our time, a man who was not truly trying to build a business, but instead trying to create change that will make the world and the universe, and possibly the multiverse, better and safer.
I'd first like to share with you my vision for the future. I believe in a renewable energy future. I believe that humanity must become a multi-planetary space-faring civilization. Those seem like exciting goals, don't they?
The entire world believed in Elon Musk. He was a symbol of our future, and through him, our future looked bright. And then, in a single moment, it all collapsed. On the 23rd of June, 2018, disaster struck. Not in one of Elon Musk's offices or factories, but on the other side of the world, in a cave in northern Thailand. A soccer team of 12 boys, ranging from age 11 to 16, and their 25-year-old soccer coach, get caught in a cave while exploring after practice, when a sudden monsoon storm floods the entrance behind them, leaving them trapped miles underground with no way out. For 9 days, nobody even knows if they're alive. But within hours, the story becomes a round-the-clock global media frenzy as hundreds of millions of people watch, wait, and hope that the kids can be saved. When a pair of British cave divers finally find all of them alive, having huddled on a rocky ledge in total darkness for a week, the world rejoices. But there was just one problem, because now they need to get them out. That's when Elon Musk announces that he was going to come to the rescue, mobilizing a team of engineers to build a miniature submarine from pieces of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket so they could place the boys in a tube and guide it through the water to safety. But by the time he physically arrived in Thailand to save the day, Thai Navy SEALs had already begun extracting the boys using the far simpler method of sedating each child with ketamine and physically guiding their unconscious bodies through the tunnels one at a time over the course of 3 days. A method that, while terrifying and dangerous, worked perfectly, with all 13 boys being rescued safely. But Elon Musk couldn't let it go after one of the lead rescue divers, a British man named Vernon Unsworth, casually commented that Musk's submarine had no chance of working and described it as a PR stunt.
And stick his submarine where it hurts. Just had absolutely no chance of working. He had no conception of what the cave passage was like. The submarine, I believe, was about 5'6" long, rigid, so it wouldn't have gone round corners or round any obstacles. It wouldn't have made the first 50 meters into the cave from the dive start point. Just a PR stunt.
And Elon Musk, the man who at this point was probably the most admired entrepreneur on the planet, the humble engineer who just wanted to save humanity, responded by calling Unsworth a pedo guy on Twitter. A few weeks later, in the middle of a media frenzy, he would double down, telling a journalist that Unsworth was literally a child rapist, a phrase that I can't even say in this video, and that he was having investigators look into his background. Unsworth, in return, sued Musk for defamation. Because we are, right now, in the middle of a global privacy crisis. As you're watching this video, your full name, home address, phone number, email, a list of your family members, and all their information, it's sitting completely exposed on the internet. This is the sort of thing that keeps me up at night. Doxing used to require effort. It's now totally free. You post something controversial online, your home address is one search away. Someone who wants to expose your personal information doesn't need to be a hacker. All they need is a phone. And there isn't a lot of attention paid to this in the media today, but it really is silently destroying our quality of life in a lot of ways. That's why I'm proud to be partnering with Incogni. Incogni is a personal data removal service that tracks down your exposed information across hundreds of sites and gets it taken down automatically. You sign up, You share the info they need to find your profiles, and they handle the rest forever. And for me personally, as Volksgeist, Incogni is a necessity. Doing what I do for a living, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that myself and my family's personal information was still readily available online. I'm serious, I need Incogni. For a long time, it was becoming hugely concerning to me that every time I released a new video, I would get floods of text messages from strange numbers complimenting my latest upload, and I could never tell if it was a veiled threat or just coming from a crazy stalker or what. Either way, ever since I got set up with Incogni, it hasn't been a problem. Right now, it's more important than ever, not just useful, but legitimately important to your safety to disappear from the internet as much as you can. We're living in a time when apps you use are collecting your health information, ethnicity, political beliefs, sexual orientation, shopping habits, hobbies, and they're monetizing it against you. It is easier than ever to be tracked down in real life. You and your family can literally be connected to each other by someone who wants to harm you, or your identity can even be stolen by information people find online. Incogni even offers custom removals, a feature where you can send them any website you find with your data on it, and they'll get rid of it for you. We're living in a moment where it's no longer safe to assume that your personal information is ever safe. Data brokers, scammers, and stalkers have more power over us than ever before, and it has become essentially mandatory to live with this in mind. And so it's really nice that Incogni offers a variety of plans to meet people's needs. I personally love how the family plan helped me protect all the people I'm connected to, and of course the unlimited plan gives you access to custom removals. But whatever you choose, I cannot recommend Incogni enough as the best way to get your personal data removed from the internet in a time when your personal data, which is the easiest way to harm, harass, or steal from you, is more accessible than ever before. So take control of your privacy, support the independent work I do here on Volksgeist, and best of all, get 60% off an annual Incogni plan by going to incogni.com/Volksgeist. That's 60% off an annual plan at incogni.com/Volksgeist right now. This was the moment when the cracks in Elon Musk's armor began to show. It wasn't as if one insulting tweet could erase everything Musk had achieved, but it was that it revealed something the hero narrative had hidden for a long time. Underneath the quest to save humanity was a man who simply couldn't handle being wrong. The Elon Musk that the entire world loved, the reluctant genius, the engineer who was only rich because he needed to save the planet, he never would have done this. But the Elon Musk that his ex-wives and former co-founders and employees had known for decades, that's a different story. And this was only the beginning. 3 weeks after the pedo guy tweet, Elon Musk starts tweeting about taking Tesla private, which made the company's market cap jump by $8 billion in just 4 hours. The only problem was that it was a shitpost. It wasn't true at all. He was manipulating the stock price by posting online. The SEC charged him with securities fraud, which resulted in a $40 million settlement. He was forced to resign as chairman of Tesla, and the company ended up being ordered to hire a lawyer to screen his tweets before he posted them. A few weeks after that, he went on Joe Rogan and started smoking weed on camera, which led to Tesla stock dropping almost 20% the next day, and 3 senior executives at the company resigning immediately. And of course, the whole world was watching. When he tweeted about taking Tesla private, when he was smoking with Joe Rogan, this stuff dominated the news cycle for weeks. Tesla, of course, had their own explanation. Elon Musk was stressed, overworked, and having a hard time. Musk would describe the situation as being just one part of the most difficult year of his career. He said that he was working 120 hours a week and had to take Ambien just to go to sleep. But then it didn't stop. Shortly after the taking Tesla private debacle, he started threatening employees that if they unionized, he would take their stock options away, a statement that would later be ruled illegal by a federal judge. When COVID hit, he famously started posting that it was totally overblown, promising that there would be almost no cases within a month of lockdown starting, and eventually even began saying that the lockdown orders were fascist. By month 2 of the COVID lockdowns, he reopened Tesla factories and fired workers who didn't want to go back. Hundreds of employees got sick. The whole world was wondering what was wrong with humanity's most selfless billionaire, society's hardest working entrepreneur. This was the focus of social media and the press at the time. Was something wrong with Elon Musk? What was he doing? Why had he suddenly changed? It turned out, though, that nothing had changed at all. The side of Elon Musk that we've seen all throughout this video, in every stage of his career, the side that acts angry, controlling, and takes unnecessary risk, it had become impossible to hide. So unfortunately, between takes, I ended up getting up and going outside, and I got caught in the rain, so I now am wearing a hat, and my voice is hoarse. So hopefully you guys can't tell, but to me, I sound different. Either way, I'll try to use the best takes and keep it, sounding kind of normal. But anyway, the public's doubt in Elon Musk only started with the tweeting, the COVID denial, the threatening employees, blackmailing them not to unionize, the doxing and harassing of private citizens online, but eventually, the floodgates just opened. It would be, ironically, right at the same time as he became the richest man in the world that it became apparent to much of the world that what Elon had promised in exchange for giving him so much power and wealth was either late or had never existed in the first place. In 2017, Elon Musk promised full self-driving would be totally complete by the end of 2019. It wasn't. He pushed it to 2020, 2021, 2022. Every single year, they made the same promise at Tesla. Customers were paying up to $15,000 for software that, to this day, requires you to assist it in driving. But full self-driving never came to fruition. In 2019, he told investors that there would be 1 million autonomous robo-taxis on the road by the end of the next year. Obviously, as we know, in 2020, there were 0. They just began road testing them a few weeks ago. That's 7 years late. He also promised that an autonomous coast-to-coast drive, LA to New York City, with no human intervention, would be completed by the end of 2017. That drive has still never happened. Then they unveiled the second-generation Tesla Roadster. It was planned to be the fastest production car ever made, 0 to 60 in 1 second. And they promised that it would have 600 miles of battery range. They scheduled deliveries to start in 2020, and thousands of people put down $50,000 deposits the same day they announced it. Some people paid for the car entirely up front. Then 2018 became 2019, which became 2020, all the way to today. 9 years after the Tesla Roadster was announced, not one single car has ever been delivered to a customer. When YouTuber MKBHD famously tried to cancel his reservation after 8 years, he couldn't even reach someone at the company to do it for him. 2 years after the Roadster, they announced yet another earth-shaking car, the Cybertruck, with a base price of $39,000, an extremely unique look, and a promised range of 500 miles, seemed like it would be a very special car. But not only would it be released 5 years after the date they promised, it would end up twice as expensive and with half the range they had claimed. Then Elon Musk promised the Hyperloop, a futuristic train system where passenger pods would travel at 760 miles an hour through vacuum tubes, bringing you from LA to San Francisco in half an hour. But in the end, they built nothing but a 1-mile tunnel in Las Vegas where you can drive your Tesla underground to get between hotels faster. Eventually, even the products that Elon Musk's companies did manage to deliver began to fall apart. In 2018, a respected automotive journalist/engineer in Detroit examined a Model 3 Tesla and said that the car's panel gaps were visible from Mars, comparing it to a Kia from the 90s. In 2020, Tesla cars ranked dead last for reliability from multiple quality studies. Tesla, which had once been seen as a premium brand coveted by celebrities and influencers, was becoming known for poorly fitting panels, paint issues, weird squeaks and rattles, and an overall far less than premium ownership experience. And while Elon Musk had promised the world with Tesla, what he delivered was a couple of kinda nice but kinda shitty cars whose core features weren't even available yet. Teslas, in addition to being electric, were also famous for the idea that they were self-driving as well. There are 2 ways to make a self-driving car work. One, you can add LiDAR detectors, which are essentially laser-based sensors that shoot out millions of invisible beams of light every second to build a very precise, real-time, accurate 3D understanding of everything around the vehicle. This is what virtually every other company working on autonomous driving chose to do. My 2016 Honda Civic actually had a LiDAR detector in its cruise control system for self-driving, and it worked perfectly. That car is worth like $14,000. But Tesla went the opposite way entirely. Elon Musk decided that LiDAR was an unnecessary expense, a crutch he called it, and that Tesla could achieve full self-driving using nothing but basically webcams and AI. The argument was that humans drive with just 2 eyes and a brain, so a car surrounded by 8 cameras and powered by AI should be able to do the same thing. Unfortunately, that still doesn't fully work today, and Tesla is being investigated by the government right now for horrific crashes that have happened during self-driving modes. But it wasn't just about the cars themselves. People also started taking a closer look at how Tesla made them. 2 major investigations were published that documented how Tesla intentionally mislabeled and undercounted worker injuries, with hundreds of ambulances being called to their factories in just a few years. A former factory physician's assistant would say her instructions were to keep as many workplace injuries off the books as possible. In 2019, Tesla would actually be named one of the most dangerous places to work in America by the National Council for Occupational Safety. People were literally dying at work at Tesla factories more than any other factories in America. But it wasn't just Tesla. In September of 2014, Elon Musk promised that SpaceX could build a significant base on Mars, perhaps with tens of thousands of people living there by 2040. But then the timeline accelerated dramatically. For years, they continued promising that they could send people to Mars in 2020 or 2021 or 2022, and that never happened. But still, right now today, despite this never happening, and even the NASA head administrator public with a target valuation of $1.5 trillion in the middle of 2026, which would make Elon Musk the world's first trillionaire. And a self-made one at that. If you want to support the channel, you can now go to spiritworld.store and grab our latest piece, The Self-Made Trillionaire. It's a beautifully embroidered sweater, very comfortable, very warm, very smooth, and it comes with free shipping, and it hugely helps advance our mission of covering the most important stories of our generation. Maybe, if you guys buy enough, I might be a self-made trillionaire too. Regardless though, that's spiritworld.store to buy one now. Either way though, when you look at Tesla and SpaceX, and when you compare kind of what they've achieved versus what they promised, and then you see how much influence and wealth Elon Musk has accumulated as a result of those promises that never came to fruition, it becomes very difficult to see him as anything other than a very, very successful scam artist. And I don't say that because he's never built anything. Elon Musk is definitely a successful and skilled entrepreneur, but the scale of his wealth, and more importantly, his power and influence, it's reached a level that he never earned. But it instead reflects promises that he made without ever following through. But I think by the time the world started to turn on Elon Musk and not hate him, but question his achievements and question his promises, it was already too late because he was already one of the richest people in the world. This wasn't Zip2 or PayPal where someone else could step in and take him down a peg, because it would just so happen that right at the exact same moment that Elon Musk's heroism and selflessness and him being the only ethical billionaire, right when people started to doubt that, he suddenly becomes the richest man on Earth. 2020 specifically, despite being a year of total uncertainty, was the year that made Elon Musk the richest man on Earth. Before COVID, Elon Musk was very, very rich. His net worth was like $15 or $20 billion. But at the same time, though, he was nowhere near the top of the list of the world's richest people. But in 2020, actually, at the same time that Elon Musk forced their factories open during COVID, Tesla exploded in valuation. For one, Tesla opened a factory in China, which made their cars more accessible in Asia, and then also the election of Joe Biden, that signaled more pro-electric vehicle policy and incentives in the US. And then in addition to that, other automakers were announcing that they were going to make EVs too, which signaled a lot of growth for the industry as a whole. Plus, they also started selling the Model Y SUV, which became one of the best-selling cars in the country very quickly. And so throughout 2020, Tesla's stock price jumped by over 800%, with their total market cap reaching almost $800 billion by the end of the year. And naturally, as a result, Elon Musk would go from a net worth of $20 billion to being the world's richest man, with a net worth of more than $160 billion in that same time period. This wasn't just normal stock growth. This was actually Tesla's stock price becoming completely decoupled from reality. At the end of 2020, Tesla's valuation reached a point where they were suddenly worth more than the other 10 largest car companies in the world combined. Tesla alone would be worth up as much as Volkswagen, Toyota, Nissan, Hyundai and Kia, GM, Ford, Honda, Fiat Chrysler, and Peugeot, despite Tesla delivering literally 1% as many vehicles as the other companies I just listed. That is literally true. In 2020, Tesla delivers 500,000 vehicles. That's a lot, but it's also less cars for their whole company than Ford sold F-150s. In total, those big 10 companies combined sold about 50 million vehicles in 2020 around the world. But Tesla alone would be worth more than every single one of them put together. And I don't want to harp on this too long, but the important question is, why? Well, I think the answer is simple. People weren't investing in Tesla. They were investing in their belief on the future based on the mythology that surrounded Elon Musk. They were investing in the promise of safe, self-driving cars, manned missions to Mars, brain implants that could cure paralysis. You know, people believed in Elon Musk because he represented the future. And so investing in Tesla felt like investing in the future of humanity itself. And that belief had made Elon Musk in 2020 the richest man on Earth. It made his company valuable beyond reason. The numbers are pretty simple. Tesla was way overvalued because people believed in a story that was attached to it. At the same time, though, the higher Elon Musk would keep climbing, the worse and worse his reputation would begin to shatter. To understand how far the myth of Elon Musk fell, we first have to understand where he started. For most of his public life, Elon Musk was not a political figure at all. If you had to slot him into a political movement, I guess you could call him a moderate Democrat. Elon Musk voted for President Obama twice, and he actually donated to Hillary Clinton back in 2015. He also, allegedly, according to him, voted for Joe Biden in 2020. The whole point of Teslas were that they were good for the environment. That's a pretty liberal position. Elon Musk, he built his whole fortune on these solar panels, electric cars, space exploration, the stuff that was by definition progressive. When Donald Trump was elected in 2016, Elon Musk actually accepted a seat on 2 White House advisory councils, which is pretty common for industry leaders, but he resigned from both of them when Trump pulled the US out of the Paris Climate Agreement. He would tweet about how climate change was real, and he didn't agree with the decision to do that at all. In 2017, his net favorability rating was actually plus 24, not just among Democrats, but among everybody. He was one of the only public figures in modern American history who was liked by everyone. Democrats loved him because he was building the future of clean energy. Republicans loved him because they saw him as a self-made billionaire. He wasn't red or blue. He was just the guy who wanted to go to Mars. But during the extended release PR disaster of 2018 to 2021, one thing that got published was a ProPublica report showing that Elon Musk had actually paid $0 in income taxes in 2018. Even though his wealth had increased by $15 billion that year. They would show, in fact, that averaged over 5 years, Elon Musk typically only paid around 3% in income tax. And if every other kind of mild controversy he got embroiled in up to that point wasn't enough, because for the most part it wasn't. A lot of the stuff he was doing was considered weird or quirky, or that maybe something was wrong with him, but this report specifically made him instantly a symbol of everything that progressives hated. Every time a Democrat politician would go on TV to talk about income inequality and billionaires and taxes, from that moment on, Elon Musk's face would be the one they would put on the screen. And so that ProPublica report was the nail in the coffin. As of that moment, no longer was Elon Musk a symbol of the future. It had become instead a symbol of everything that was wrong with the world right now, today. At this point, around early 2021, even the online communities that once loved Elon Musk for his dedication and authenticity and selflessness, they began to fracture. For a lot of people, the tone shifted from Elon Musk is a genius who sometimes says dumb stuff to Elon Musk is a billionaire who lied to us. The conversation completely shifted from adoration to skepticism to outright hostility. The traditional press followed soon after. The same publications that had once competed to crown Elon Musk the most important person in the world were now running investigations into his factories, his labor practices, his tax avoidance, his government subsidies, his personal relationships. He went from Fortune's Business Person of the Year and Time's Person of the Year to being the subject of Reuters and Reveal investigations into injuries at his factories that were being deliberately as a visionary recovering livelihood. And so a couple of years of his reputation slipping, whether it was for suspicious conduct in his factories, strange and avoidable online controversies, or him just being called out politically for very good reasons, Elon Musk himself ends up completely snapping in the opposite direction. Around 2020, he begins ranting online on and on about George Soros, the woke mind virus death cult, saying that leftism was pushing humanity towards total extinction. His Twitter profile became a constant stream, dozens of posts every day of conservative conspiracies and memes as he would outright attack liberal politicians. It seemed more than anything like Elon Musk had, after being rejected by left-wing politicians, fallen down a far-right online political rabbit hole. This is a guy who donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to Barack Obama's campaigns, tweeting about the woke mind virus hundreds of times. This is a guy who actually said he voted for Biden in 2020, suddenly posting the worst ignorant shit online you could ever imagine to an audience of tens of millions of people who hang on his every word like he's a god. People asked why Elon Musk got swallowed by the psychotic online political algorithms, but I think even this can be explained through the lens of his deep desire for control. In 2020, Elon Musk's then 16-year-old child came out as transgender. 2 years later, she files in court to change her name to Vivian Jenna Wilson, dropping Musk entirely. The filing included one line. It reads, "I no longer live with or wish to be related to my biological father in any way, shape, or form." In response, he would go on Jordan Peterson's podcast to say that his son was killed by the woke mind virus. And ultimately, there was absolutely nothing more repulsive to the general public than that.
So my son Xavier is dead. Killed by the woke mind virus.
Before left-wing politicians started pointing out his greed, before his daughter came out as trans, Elon Musk was like a normal-ass dude. He didn't have a lot of political affiliations in general. Most of the time, he just supported the same agendas his companies had, like renewable energy, environmental conservation, forward-thinking, science stuff. That's who he was for decades. But he would end up changing exactly when he lost control of his narrative and people started to question his true intentions and the methods behind his work. At this point, a lot of people kind of hated Elon Musk. The mythology that powered Tesla stock to where it got, stories that made Elon Musk the symbol of American ambition, that story was kind of dead. So what does a man with the biggest fortune in the entire world do when everyone who once loved him starts to hate him? This is where he buys the media itself. While Mark Zuckerberg wants to help you share baby photos, Elon Musk wants to save the human race from self-imposed annihilation. That's a real quote from Ashley Vance's 2015 biography of Elon Musk. But that's not true anymore. In 2023, Elon Musk decided to leave behind saving the human race and take up the mantle of sharing not baby photos, but insane racist ranting, conspiracies, illegal porn, absurd misinformation, and other content that fosters fear, hatred, and promotes an overall worse social fabric in every conceivable way. Because in 2022, at the height of the controversy around him, Elon Musk would spend $44 billion to buy yet another company in his long list of companies. This time, it would be one of the most popular social media platforms in the world. Twitter. He built it as a mission to restore free speech to the internet. He talked about how leftists want to kill humanity and he needs to help, save the human race from destroying itself with toxic leftism. But in reality, I think it's pretty clear that the results were the total opposite. On April 14th, 2022, Elon Musk made an unsolicited offer to buy the entirety of Twitter for $44 billion. It actually wasn't even up for sale. It was already a publicly traded company and had been for a decade. But Elon Musk had been secretly buying up shares for months, building a 10% stake in Twitter without anyone knowing before offering to buy the whole thing at almost 20% more than what it was worth. Sure enough, 5 months later, he walks into Twitter's headquarters as the company's new owner, making it a private company, no longer available on the stock exchange. It wasn't a smooth road to that point. He tried to back out several times, even trying to sue to get out of having to buy Twitter, because even the world's richest man doesn't have $44 billion in cash that he can just use to buy an entire company. And so ultimately, he had to seek financing from Saudi investment groups to complete the purchase. But on the day he walked into the office, he fired the CEO, CFO, head of legal, and head of safety. It would go on to get rid of not just top executives, but in total, 80% of Twitter was gone within just a few weeks. Employees would describe sleeping in the office and being expected to work all night before colleagues would disappear without explanation. One engineer described the atmosphere as a never-ending hostage situation where you're expected to be grateful to the kidnapper, and it only got worse from there. By 2023, 70% of Twitter's advertisers had pulled out, and the company's revenue numbers were down to an unsustainable amount. And I think it was pretty clear to the general public that Elon Musk had bought Twitter not to save free speech, not to protect humanity from the woke mind virus, but because he wanted to seek control over his own narrative. He didn't like how he had lost control of how people saw him, especially because Twitter was always his home base and it was the first platform to turn. But I think what that led to would be something else entirely. He talked about protecting free speech. He talked about wanting people to be themselves and unbanning people like Alex Jones and Andrew Tate, who had been banned on Twitter. But when you scroll through Twitter today, it's basically been turned into a schizophrenic right-wing indoctrination machine. The website is insane. It's full of guys from India who have accounts where they try to incite political violence in the US for engagement. It's full of people who want to draw support for race wars. It's you know what? I'm not against free speech, but I understand why their revenue crashed. I mean, what kind of corporation wants to advertise next to a Nazi blog? No matter what you do now on Twitter, your feed is just full of crazy shit, AI-generated slop, rage farming, crypto scams. If I didn't have a good understanding of what I believe in life, I could get sucked into it too. And if Twitter was too far left before, at least it was publicly traded and kind of, beholden to something. Not only is it full of insanity today, spreading the worst ideas our society has to offer, it's also owned by one person. Twitter was the first place that started tearing Elon Musk apart. When all of these broken promises, all of these outbursts, all of these lies about self-driving and the Mars timelines, when that first started getting thrown under the microscope, Twitter was where it happened. And so Elon Musk basically just bought it and destroyed it. That's why this isn't just a liberal or conservative video. This video is about how corrupt and wrong it is that Elon Musk, as one single private person, can control and dominate so much of our economy, our culture, our politics, off the back of inventions that he never even finished making. We live in a time where the logistics and culture of wealth have far surpassed any practical purpose. And so what we're attempting now, I think, is there are people who want to remake the entire world like a god in their own image. But of course, again, I must say, for what feels like the 15th time, for Elon Musk, Twitter was just not enough. Buying one of the world's most influential social platforms and manipulating it and turning it into what he wanted it to be was not enough. Because within a year and a half, he would only go further from there, this time grabbing for power within the United States government itself. In July of 2024, Donald Trump was shot in the corner of his ear while speaking at a campaign rally in a small town in rural Pennsylvania. Minutes later, Elon Musk tweets, "I fully endorse President Trump and I hope for his rapid recovery." This would be the kickoff to the most prolific influence that any private citizen has ever had with any American election in history. Elon Musk would spend, in total for the 2024 presidential election, more money than either the Republican or Democrat national committees would spend on their own candidates. He is the reason, according to many experts, that Donald Trump won the election at all. Most of the $290 million he spent on electing Donald Trump went through something called America PAC, a super PAC that he founded that took over the Trump campaign's ground game in swing states. He ran door knocking and voter registration for Trump in all of the swing states. He also funded, for some reason, something called RBG PAC, spending $30 million to run ads that implied to people that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for some reason, would have agreed with Donald Trump on abortion. In addition to that, he started using Twitter, manipulating the algorithm on there to boost his own posts promoting the Trump campaign. Then he started handing out money. Just a month before the election, he announced that he would be awarding $1 million every single day to registered voters. The Department of Justice sent a warning letter that what he was doing was illegal, but it continued anyway. Elon Musk, after spending $290 million to get Donald Trump elected, received in return a seat inside the White House itself, with more unelected power than any private citizen has ever had in American history. Because for months, Donald Trump had promised that once he was elected, he would give Elon Musk his own department inside the federal government called the Department of Government Efficiency. And once it began, it would become one of the most chaotic, legally contested, bizarre, and ultimately shameful experiments in modern American history. The goal of DOGE was to audit federal agencies and reduce unnecessary spending. They promised that Musk, with all of his expertise and genius and all the amazing workers he had in their AI and computers, would be able to get rid of the federal budget deficit by at least $3 or $4 trillion. And when Elon Musk started doing media for the DOGE project, he began claiming that they had immediately found on their first day in the White House that there were 20 million people over the age of 100 still receiving Social Security benefits, as in there were 20 million people fraudulently benefiting from a dead person's Social Security checks, because obviously that would be impossible. It turned out, though, that the actual number was like 32,000. After that, they laid off 1,400 out of the 1,700 employees at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the agency that made sure that banks can't rip off their customers. Then they fired half the people working in the IRS unit that audits billionaires. The Yale Budget Lab estimated this would cost $2.4 trillion in lost tax revenue over the next decade. $2.4 trillion. That's more than they were hoping to save by shrinking the government in the first place. But when that didn't move the needle enough, they offered the entire federal workforce, 2 million people in total, the option to quit their jobs and be paid a few months of salary. But while Elon Musk was gutting these agencies, getting rid of regulations, and firing tens of thousands of workers, he was simultaneously using his place in the White House to market his own companies. He had President Trump posing with Tesla cars for the cameras on the White House lawn. At the same time, a Senate investigation found that Elon Musk's companies were facing, at that moment, up to $2 billion in liabilities across a bunch of different enforcement actions at different agencies. But the minute that DOGE started, nearly all of those actions ended up disappearing. The guy who was supposed to be cutting government waste was using his government access to cut the government's ability to hold his companies accountable. At the same time as they were turning the White House lawn into a Tesla showroom and secretly dismantling regulation against themselves, they were also getting rid of the American soft power system. Because for decades, the United States has been the largest provider of foreign aid in the world. Through the federal agency USAID, America had funded over decades roughly 40% of all global humanitarian assistance, from HIV treatment to malaria prevention to food aid, disaster relief. The record states that they had saved 26 million lives since 2003. Elon Musk completely got rid of the agency. It no longer exists in any capacity at all. In reality, the human cost of canceling USAID is very hard to comprehend. Studies showed that 14 million people would die within 10 years without USAID. Amnesty International investigators interviewed aid workers on the ground who described IVs being physically ripped out of patients' arms when the stop work orders from DOGE came down. HIV clinics in South Africa shut down overnight. A $90 million malaria prevention contract serving 53 million people was terminated. But even beyond just a death toll, what DOGE did to America's position in the world may never be repaired. USAID was never really about charity. In reality, it was America's most powerful tool of global influence. When the United States swoops in to build a hospital in sub-Saharan Africa, or sends money for malaria vaccines in Southeast Asia, or hands out food after a disaster, people remember who showed up to help. This is called soft power, and it was a huge part of the United States gaining the status of global leader following World War II. The American government was able to cultivate strength, power, and influence through giving, and because of that, it's long been considered in many ways a project of the CIA. My point is that USAID was a huge part of the United States' global status, our geopolitical position. It was basically a deep state project intended to improve America's perception by spending a little money to help a lot of people, and Elon Musk got rid of it to save money. Within months, all 10,000 USAID employees were fired, and it was closed on this pretense that Elon Musk and the Doge people kept repeating that all USAID did was hand out malaria vaccines to the global underclass and do transgender education and sex changes in Afghanistan and teach people how to be gay in Peru. The average person did not buy the Doge narrative, and the backlash against Elon Musk and his companies as he got involved with this was unlike anything he had ever experienced before. A Yahoo News poll published at the height of publicity around Doge found that 67% of Americans would never consider buying a Tesla, with almost half of them listing Elon Musk as the only reason. Tesla sales fell off a cliff. Their profits by the middle of 2025 had fallen 71%, and sales in Germany and France were down 60% each. In the end, BYD, a Chinese car company, passed Tesla as the world's best-selling electric vehicle maker. A brand survey in the middle of 2025 found that Tesla was ranked as 95th least favored out of the top 100 American companies. At cities and states across the country, people began doing protests and sit-ins outside of Tesla showrooms, and then people started setting them on fire. Tesla dealerships were targeted with vandalism. People were literally bombing and destroying cars in 12 states. Most of all, though, Tesla's stock fell by 50%, which also brought Elon Musk's net worth down the same amount. Even the financial sector wanted nothing to do with the direction that Elon Musk was going in. By the time Elon Musk's 130-day term as a special government employee expired, his companies were worth $800 billion less than they had been when he got there. He had thrown away America's status on the global stage. He had destroyed tens of thousands of jobs and millions of lives for nothing, and even his own companies were suffering. Plus, recently released deposition videos showed Doge employees admitting that they know they did not reduce the federal deficit in any way, in addition to them admitting they had used ChatGPT to decide which grants should be cut or reduced. And this alone should be enough, if nothing else was already, to destroy Elon Musk's reputation. It's a stain on his career so big that it overshadows everything else he contributed to society already. Yes, he made electric cars. Yes, he invented new kinds of rockets, or at least his companies did, but it would be only a few months after Doge was opened that he would again find himself in the middle of a bigger fallout than ever before. Because it would actually be at the same time as Elon Musk claimed to be saving the federal budget with unpopular yet necessary spending cuts that the Trump administration would introduce their Big Beautiful Bill, a sweeping series of tax cuts and spending provisions that was initially estimated to lead to a $4 trillion increase to the federal deficit over the next 10 years. One think tank described that the Big Beautiful Bill would create the largest upward transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich in American history, and only further exacerbate the growing problem of inequality. And Elon Musk would immediately begin criticizing this bill in public, as going against the work that the Doge team was doing and increasing the federal deficit and blah, blah, blah. But it also immediately became clear that this bill was going to affect Elon Musk in more ways than one. One provision that the bill included was the early elimination of the $7,000 tax credits that the federal government had been handing out to everyone who bought an EV. The EV tax credit, which was introduced in 2009, provided a huge incentive for Americans to buy electric vehicles, no doubt inspiring millions of sales and incentivizing companies to develop totally new electric cars that they may have not been able to justify otherwise. Basically, the federal government was making every electric vehicle $7,000 cheaper than it was originally. That's a big deal. That's like 25% off on a lot of these cars. And while this was intended to last until 2034, basically making electric cars viable and allowing them to be introduced into the economy more easily, the Big Beautiful Bill wrote in a provision to cancel it 9 years early at the end of 2025. And what that means is that basically overnight, every Tesla would suddenly cost effectively $7,000 more than it did the day before. And as the bill advanced, Elon Musk's statements would only grow more severe. He began tweeting about how the Big Beautiful Bill was an abomination and a huge betrayal of the American people, repeatedly tweeting, "Kill the bill." And this feud that Elon Musk had with the Big Beautiful Bill continued for some time. Eventually, Trump started speaking out against Musk for his disagreeing with it, calling him a massive drug addict and threatening him with severe consequences if he switched to funding Democrats instead of Republicans. Elon Musk began attacking the bill again, writing online that the Big Beautiful Bill would destroy millions of jobs in America and be political suicide for the Republican Party, to which Donald Trump responds by threatening to deport Elon Musk. Trump would end up saying flat out that Elon Musk was only against the bill because it
addressed a situation Tesla was benefiting from. You know, because in reality, these EV credits that the federal government was handing out, they worked in a way where Tesla wasn't just kind of benefiting from more sales, they were actually getting paid for them directly. The federal government had set up fuel efficiency standard regulations requiring every automaker to hit a certain average miles per gallon across all their cars. And Tesla, because they only make electric vehicles, they were able to sell their efficiency credits to companies like GM or Ford that make mainly trucks to stop them from getting hit with, you know, the regulation fines and whatever it was. And that rule last year made Tesla $3 billion. That's 16% of their gross profit. And they were basically getting that money for free. And the big beautiful bill, it wasn't getting rid of just the tax credits. They were going to cancel this entire fuel efficiency credit system entirely. And so in the end, Tesla's free $3 billion revenue stream from selling credits was going to evaporate. And so ultimately, while Elon Musk was advocating against a bill that was pretty obviously going to hurt the American people, he wasn't actually standing up for American people. He was standing up for his bottom line. He was gung-ho on firing tens of thousands of federal workers to save money, but when it came to saving money on subsidizing electric vehicles, suddenly the situation becomes a disgusting abomination. On June 3rd, just a month before the bill ultimately passed, the situation reached a fever pitch when, after a lengthy back and forth, President Trump actually began threatening to cut all government contracts for Elon Musk's companies, to which Elon Musk responds by writing, "Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day." Elon Musk had been outspoken about the Jeffrey Epstein case for years. As far back as 2019, when Epstein was first arrested, he was calling him a creep. For a long time, he called for transparency, accountability. Basically, Elon Musk made it very clear what side of history he was on when it came to the Epstein files. He even started offering to pay for Epstein's victims' lawsuits if they were to come forward and end up getting sued, you know, like that kind of stuff. When Reid Hoffman, another billionaire PayPal co-founder, was named in the files, Elon Musk would even go after him for years, even though they were former coworkers and colleagues. And with a platform as big as Elon Musk's, he was a pretty big part of keeping the conversation about Epstein alive. He was always posting that no one should be protected and every powerful figure who was involved with Epstein should be exposed. Even just last year in 2025, Elon Musk was posting about his relationship with Epstein. He said, "He tried to get me to go to his island and I refused." When the Department of Justice finally began releasing the millions of emails and photos they had taken from Epstein's computers, Elon Musk's name would be mentioned thousands of times. And many of those mentions come in the form of emails to or from Elon Musk himself. On Christmas Day in 2012, at 6 in the morning, Elon Musk emails Jeffrey Epstein to ask if he had any parties planned, saying that he needs to let loose after working to the edge of sanity all year. A 2015 photo shows Elon Musk at a dinner table with Mark Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel, and Jeffrey Epstein. Other emails from Musk to Epstein include one where Musk asks, "What day will be the craziest party on your island?" Another one from a year later, Epstein invites Musk to his house in New York to party with, as he describes, cute girls under 25. All of this communication, all of these meetups, all the meetings and the lunches that they organized, this is happening years after it was public knowledge that Jeffrey Epstein was a child predator. And that alone is very strange. Okay, let's just say very strange. But Elon Musk's brother Kimball's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is a lot stranger even than that. For years, Kimball Musk and Jeffrey Epstein maintained a very close relationship, to the point actually where Jeffrey Epstein orchestrated for a woman he was associated with, if you know what I mean, to visit Kimball in Colorado. But it didn't just happen once. Epstein's emails show that this went on for years, with Epstein controlling this woman's travel itinerary and telling her when and where she could visit Kimball. Elon Musk's brother is essentially confirmed to have been one of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. The Denver Post would later report that the woman Epstein sent to visit Kimball Musk was confirmed to be the same woman who described being groomed and trafficked as a by Epstein in a 2019 lawsuit. And none of this is like actual legal proof that Elon Musk had anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. I'm putting that out there to say, hey, okay, don't pop me in the back of the head for saying this on camera. What this does prove, beyond any doubt, is that Elon Musk lied. He actually lied about a lot. His response to the Epstein files, his place in that story, it reflects a level of hypocrisy that extends far beyond just Jeffrey Epstein. And it starts to cover any legacy that Elon Musk might have as an entrepreneur or an inventor in a shadow of hypocrisy and lies. Elon Musk came to America as an immigrant. He started his first company illegal on an expired student visa. Basically, he was an undocumented worker. If he had been caught at any point during the founding of Zip2, he would have been deported and potentially banned from the country for years. The entire Elon Musk story, every company, every rocket, every car, every dollar, it exists because the government didn't stop him from getting his start as an illegal alien. And that same man now spends his time posting about immigrant hordes replacing white voters. And Elon Musk's companies have received over $50 billion in government contracts, loans, subsidies, and tax credits over the course of his career. SpaceX only exists because NASA gave them a huge contract when they were 2 weeks away from bankruptcy. Tesla exists in the same way because the Department of Energy gave them a $500 million loan during the last recession. The electric vehicle tax credits that originally made Teslas affordable enough for regular people to buy were funded by the same liberal government that Elon Musk spent 2025 trying to ruin. Starlink as well has been funded by military contracts. Every single one of Elon Musk's companies was either saved by or built on public funding. When Elon Musk haters post that he's the single largest welfare recipient in American history, they aren't lying. That's not an exaggeration. That's not some liberal tears type of thing to say. It's true. Elon Musk's story of being a self-made trillionaire is not factual. It never was. And there's not exactly something wrong with that. I don't think it's a bad thing for the government to fund innovation. But when the government funds innovation and the person doing that innovation ends up exaggerating the innovation he's doing so he can get more influence and then cancel the government's ability to fund more innovation in the future, that's not a good situation. In 2009, political scientists Jeffrey Winters and Benjamin Page published a paper asking a simple question: is the United States an oligarchy? And their answer was that being an oligarchy doesn't mean that billionaires control every aspect of political life. It would, in reality, be a lot more subtle than that. What they found is that in an oligarchy, the wealthiest citizens wield a unique, concentrated form of power that exists for one primary purpose: to protect their wealth. They don't need to run for office. They don't need to win elections. They just need to make sure that the policies that would threaten their money never become law, and that the policies which grow their money always do. And because their resources are so disproportionately large compared to everyone else's, their interests will get represented whether the public agrees or not. That was 15 years ago, but this is the world we're living in right now. The American middle class is rapidly shrinking, but billionaire wealth increases with each passing year. An oligarchy would be a society where a man who pays $0 in federal income tax gets to decide how the government spends money on healthcare and education in foreign countries. An oligarchy is a society where the needs of normal people get pushed aside to protect those with influence and power. An oligarchic society would be a society where the richest people in the world don't just own large companies, but also influence and control the media. Elon Musk owns Tesla, SpaceX, and Twitter. Jeff Bezos owns Amazon and The Washington Post, one of the largest newspapers in America. Mark Zuckerberg owns Meta, and he controls Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Larry Ellison owns Oracle, and he controls TikTok. Peter Thiel, who owns the largest private surveillance company in the world, also funded the campaigns that made J.D. Vance the vice president of the United States today. I'm going to be honest, guys, it looks like the billionaires have already won. We're pretty much living in their world. Even as Elon Musk's favorability shatters in front of the entire world, his net worth only climbs. Today, he's worth, according to Forbes, $850 billion. He is going to be the world's first trillionaire. Even right now, people's disillusionment with Elon Musk is more intense than ever. Just while I was working on this video, he suddenly announced that he would be building a semiconductor manufacturing plant, a venture that could cost tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars to complete, to lukewarm reception at best as people continue to question if his projects are real or just marketing to pad his net worth as it races towards $1 trillion. In the past year or so, Tesla has announced robots, robo-taxis, new AI ventures, and more, while Elon Musk's reputation only decays further with his corruption and greed becoming more apparent at the same time, muddying the legitimacy of any ventures he might actually be involved in. Even though Elon Musk has stepped back from politics, he still represents, to many people, everything that's wrong with our society and economy. I personally don't have anything against someone who builds a company and gets rich. If you make an app and sell it for $10 million and you and your family have money to be financially independent, I don't think that's my main priority in life, but sure, I get it. That could be something that's good for you in the society we live in and good for your family, and there's not necessarily something wrong with that, the way our world works today. I have a business, Volksgeist is like a company, I own it, and people work with me and work for me and I pay them, and that's how I make things. I can't make these videos all by myself, so I use my capital to build a team around me that can help me. And that's how we do journalism. But there's a threshold where the wealth stops being a reward for building something useful, and it starts becoming a form of power. And I think that that's fundamentally incompatible with democracy. I think democracy is based on the idea that power comes from people and from votes. But when one man can spend $290 million on an election, and he can own the platform where political discourse happens at the same time, and then he gets appointed to run a government agency, what are votes even for? What is the point of an election when one person's checkbook outweighs the collective will of millions of people? And I don't even think Elon Musk at this point is a capitalist. Capitalism is about building products and selling them. This is something else. This is when you build a product, use the profits to buy the media, use the media to buy the election, use the election to buy the government, use the government to eliminate the regulations on your product. And so basically what I'm trying to say is that I didn't make this video from a perspective where you can only agree with me if you hate Elon Musk. I have nothing against Tesla making electric cars or SpaceX making rockets. When I first started posting that I was making this video, I got comments from people saying, how could Elon Musk make a car that costs $30,000? When China makes cars that cost $12,000, it's so unjust, poor people can't afford Teslas. Like, dude, okay, this is not that type of video, okay? Teslas are fine cars. Lots of people are happy that they own them. I would never own one because I don't want it to drive me into a wall, but it's not about that. It's about the fact that the man who runs this company lied many times about what the company was actually going to do to inflate its value. And then he used that inflated value not to make his promises come true, but to buy himself an outsized influence in our government and economy to justify his wealth growing more and more and more until he became the richest man in the world. This is the way the world works now. We're all sitting here and watching it spin. Elon Musk is not a parasite on the system. He is the system. The oligarchs already won. The only reason I'm even allowed to say all this stuff, because this platform that I'm talking to you on is owned by oligarchs as well, is because we've all been manipulated into not taking this issue seriously enough for my words to have any real weight. But it is simply a fact that we live in an oligarchic society. We are never going to be able to regulate or control the companies that are building products and platforms that erode the fabric of our society, because the people who own those platforms are the biggest political donors of our time. And I think this is, by far, the defining political and economic moment and trend of our generation. This is what will be looked back on in decades and seen as a turning point for our civilization. Elon Musk is a private citizen who's never been elected to serve in any kind of government, who was handed the keys to totally unchecked control over the federal government, a move that led to the dismantling of American foreign influence, all because he had become rich enough to make the largest political donations of anyone ever, which he only did because he was called out by left-wing politicians for paying zero taxes after the company that he grew to a valuation of $1 trillion because he overpromised to build future tech that never even existed in the first place. The end result is a car company worth 375 times its yearly earnings, a stain on American history, a worldwide social media platform that caters to the rise of a horde of literal political insanity that erodes the fabric of our world every single day, while his net worth continues to skyrocket while middle-class living standards race to the bottom at the exact same time. The problem is that we're living in a time when people who aren't truly innovating everything were able to sell a sense of progress to the world through marketing and narratives when they were secretly accumulating a level of economic influence so powerful that they are now literally unstoppable. And making this video has put me in a tough position. I know that there will be people who call me a MAGA billionaire bootlicking Elon Musk sympathizer for the first half, and I know that for the second half there are people who will call me a liberal. And that's the problem, because I'm both of those things at the same time. No, I'm just kidding. Normally this is the part of the video where I go back and I try to figure out how someone became who they are. I remember from my Peter Thiel video, throughout the story, we talked about how him growing up in South Africa and the politics there greatly informed his worldview and what he brought to American capitalism. And I think sadly with Elon Musk, the story is exactly the same. 10 years ago or 15 years ago, he did seem like kind of a decent guy. He was pretty relatable. He basically had the world in the palm of his hands. He was seen as the only ethical billionaire, the guy who was going to save humanity. And that's all gone. And I do think it's pretty sad to look back at, before his fall from grace, what he stood for and the sort of things that he would say and the beliefs that he would espouse about science and technology and innovation and even politics as well. He didn't seem like he was a bad guy back then. But at the same time, while researching this video, I realized that he has always been exactly who he is now. He just didn't have that power and influence. At Zip2, he was 24 years old, but he got fired for being impossible to work with. He was screaming at employees, refusing to compromise. He insisted to people that he was the reincarnation of Alexander the Great. At PayPal, the same thing happens. He gets ousted by his own board while he's on his honeymoon because he's too volatile, too controlling, too willing to burn everything rather than let someone else be the expert. At Tesla, he pushes the real founders out of the company entirely. He sues them to put his own name on it, and he creates a factory culture so brutal that ambulances are being called 100 times a year and people are dying while they're making his cars. At SpaceX, people were getting amputated, electrocuted, a worker died on site. At Twitter, 80% of the workforce is fired in a minute. At Doge, 300,000 federal employees, hundreds of thousands of people are going to die. And it's really the same behavior at every stage. The only thing that changed was the scale. When Elon Musk had $10 million, the damage was contained to a single office. When he had 10 billion, it spread across factories. When he has 800 billion, he's consuming the world with it. And if you go all the way back to the beginning, past the companies, past the college years, past the money, you find this kid who grew up in one of the biggest houses in Pretoria with a father who would beat his wife in front of their kids, who would scream at his son for hours after he was hospitalized by bullies. Even look at his grandfather, who moved his family to South Africa because he wanted more freedom to be racist and spent his adult life writing essays about how white civilization was the pinnacle of human achievement. Elon Musk was not immune to becoming a product of his environment. You can see how he carried his childhood with him for the rest of his life. The need for total control, the inability to accept criticism, the instinct to destroy anything that he can't dominate, the pattern of perceived humiliation followed by extreme disproportionate retaliation against cave divers, senators, journalists, against his own daughter, against the government. Elon Musk's mother once told a biographer that the biggest danger for Elon was always that he might become his father. And I think he did. I'm sure that Elon Musk is very smart, and I have no doubt that he works very hard, and he has helped create some cool products. Of course, he has taken credit for doing a lot of work that he hasn't done. He's made a lot of false promises, but he's done a little bit more than any of us will ever do to advance humanity towards a sustainable future. It's just that the same part of him that's worked so aggressively to make that stuff happen is the same part of him that's gone so wrong so many times on so many different problems. Ultimately, growing up in a violent world isn't an excuse to become an extreme, dominating, violent person. I think a lot of people watching this video have experienced some darkness in our lives, and we may not be as smart as Elon Musk, and we're definitely not as wealthy or powerful as he is, but I think I can say that I do, and many of us do have something far more valuable than money that Elon Musk will never have. We know when to stop. And we may be living in Elon Musk's world today, but that will not always be the case, and I think until that day comes, we need to keep speaking about how important it is to value humanity and to understand the weight of right and wrong as being far more important than money. I'm Philip. This has been Volksgeist. Thank you for watching. I want to give a special thanks to my sponsor, Incogni. Don't forget to check out the new Self-Made Trillionaire merch, and I appreciate all of you for being on this journey with me. Even if the world is going in a dark direction, I believe more than anything in speaking about it as much as I can, and I'm not going to stop for as long as I'm able.